Welcome to Showboys, a podcast that delves into the world of film and TV. Hosts Nick and Mike take their water cooler talk from the office to the web as they discuss their favorite movies, shows, and all other content in between. In this week's episode, the boys are joined by Chad from That's Strange and discuss next-gen consoles, confess their love for PlayStation, and talk about what movies and shows would make cool video games. So, what's playing? Welcome to another episode of Showboys. My name is Mike. I'm joined, as always, with my good friend Nick. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. Excited about our episode today. So yeah, we're joined by our good friend Chad from That Strange podcast. How's it going, Chad?
It's going great, man. How are you guys? I'm excited to be here. Finally, now that I'm actually here.
Yeah. Welcome. We're glad you're here with us.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited about this episode. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, this one should be real fun. Before we get into anything, real quick, as always, check out our social media pages and all the different platforms that our podcast is available on, such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our podcasts are hosted on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, and you can find all of the links to these handy sites on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. And we have that linked on our Facebook page and our Anchor FM page. And we will throw this in our episode descriptions. So bookmark it in case you ever need to find one of our pages. All of our links right there in one handy place. And just wanted to remind you about our Mandalorian companion series that airs every Tuesday following the latest episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. We recap and break down everything that happens in that Mandalorian episode, and you don't want to miss it. It's been really fun so far. We've done... three episodes now? 4 episodes?
Yep, 3. Keeping up.
Yeah, it's kind of, drug me down the long, perilous road of Star Wars that I've been avoiding my entire life. And
yeah, I kind of want to unpack that for a second. Have you never watched any of the Star Wars movies?
It's great.
So, I've seen the original trilogy, but it was when I was a small child. So, I don't remember, too much really about all the details of the original trilogy. But I know all of the main plot points kind of, and most of the big characters and stuff. But I haven't watched any of the new, the new trilogy or episodes 1 through 3. I have seen Rogue One. I just watched Solo last weekend, and I've seen, I'm totally current on The Mandalorian, and thanks to Nick, I started slamming through the Rebels series, the animated series.
Oh, Rebels is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
absolutely fantastic.
75% through the first season of that, but I just started that on Monday, so I'm progressing rather quickly. But I've just kind of been avoiding Star Wars because I guess it's kind of a hipster quality of me where I'm not a hipster, but if I had to describe this, the whole reason that I've been avoiding Star Wars is because it's so popular and everyone
right
watches it and loves it, and I'm I don't want to like that, because everyone else does.
But you
but
do.
but I do. I love it,
But
and I
now
have
you're roped in.
yeah, and I'm like totally like hook, line, sinker. Like I'm all in.
He's watched
And
12 episodes of Rebels season 1 in like 3 days.
yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
that's neat. Yeah, Rebels is fantastic.
Dude, it's so good.
You're saying that your like newest entry into it was The Mandalorian outside of the original trilogy. That was the first thing you watched recently.
No, so I saw Rogue One in theaters when it came out,
Okay.
and really the reason I went and saw that was because it was like a standalone thing, or so I was told. So I was like, I can go watch this and not really be like completely lost in what's going on and whatnot. So I went and saw that, and I loved it. It was really cool. And then when Mandalorian came out, I of course watched that. And I like was kind of in the middle in the first season. Like, didn't really love it, didn't really hate it, but like wasn't like blown away by it, I guess. But here in season 2, and as we've been doing the companion series and like really talking about it and unpacking like each episode in season 2 with Nick, who's like a savant of Star Wars. It's kind of like really made me appreciate all of the like detail and stuff in the entire series. And I'm the kind of person who, whenever I like something or like get interested in something, like I'm completely consumed by it. So
Oh yeah, man. That's funny that you said that because we recorded an episode today and I actually talked about I'm the exact same way, and I kind of explain it as I get on kicks. So maybe I'll be on a Star Wars kick, and then for the whole time I'm on the Star Wars kick, I'm only playing Star Wars games, I'm watching Star Wars movies, I'm listening to Star Wars audiobooks, whatever it is. I only consume like what I'm on. So yeah, I'm the exact same way for sure.
Yeah, like it's so funny that you say that because literally the music I've been listening to is like lo-fi remixes of all the Star Wars like iconic songs.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike sent me lo-fi
Funny, man.
mixes,
It's
and I'm
like-
like, he's in deep. In deep.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
like
so,
it's like
go
a
ahead.
really. I would imagine that I have a very addictive personality.
Oh yeah,
and that's probably how you are too. Like, I just
Yep.
get addicted to things, man. And it's good that I never like got into anything bad because I'm sure I'd be all in
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
dude, that's literally exactly what I tell everyone. Like it's a good thing that I don't drink and like I don't smoke and I like never got into any kind of drugs or whatever, because I'd probably be like in a ditch somewhere.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
because like
sure.
yeah, whenever I get into something, like it takes over. So but yeah, so that's, you know, now that everyone, you know, is caught up on my Star Wars history, I'm glad that I was pulled into, you know, the hype train and whatever, the black hole of Star Wars.
So
I've really
essentially,
been enjoying
that's
myself.
That's the best way to put it. Black hole for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. So essentially, Rogue One is like a jewel pen with nicotine. It's not a cigarette. It's not a cigarette. But
Yeah.
you should try it. And then now you're smoking a pack a day now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. It's taken over for sure. But
It's
yeah,
controllable. It's manageable.
it is. I mean, I've been limiting myself to 4 episodes of Rebels a night, which, I mean, sounds like a lot, but they're like 20 minutes long, so it's like watching
Right.
Right.
a regular show. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that I'm finally taking this trip because there's so much to unpack in Star Wars. Like, it's such a built out universe already, you know.
Oh
and
yeah.
It's just I love the small details of things. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Not to take over your show real quick, but yeah, I absolutely am. I'm probably on next level as far as Star Wars goes. I grew up with it as a kid, like you did, but I never stopped doing, reading books and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So I absolutely love that universe, and the Mandalorian, I think, is nailing it on the head, if you ask me, as far as a live action TV series goes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's paving a lot of very good ground for them to basically MCU it, but like way better in my opinion.
Right. I think after the success of The Mandalorian, that Disney might see that might be their avenue of being successful with Star Wars is live action shows, or at least I hope it is. Because
Yeah, it's just
not that
it's
they
just so
weren't successful with the sequel trilogy, because I'm sure they were, but I think that there's a lot more positivity towards The Mandalorian. So
I just think
I'm hoping that they do that.
I think it's starting to become a trend, like bigger picture, like, not talking Star Wars, I'm just talking as a whole, that it's much more appealing, I think, to creators and definitely to audiences to have stories be told in a series rather than a movie, just because you have so much more time to play out, your character arcs and your plot lines and like build your world, instead of trying to cram everything into like an hour and a half or 2 hour long movie. You get like, even if it's just a mini series and it's like a 1 season, 1-off thing, that's like 8 hours of content.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm kind of in the ballpark. While I love the MCU, I do think that everything that Netflix did with the Marvel Universe is almost completely superior to the MCU. So I might be in the minority as far as that goes, but I think Daredevil and Punisher and all that stuff was much better than really any of the MCU movies. And I think it's that same reason, just because there was so much more time to build the characters, and it was a little bit darker too, which that might be part of it too.
Did you watch any of the Marvel shows on Netflix, Nick?
No, I don't think I did. I think when like Infinity War and all that came out is when obviously everyone was talking about it, and I think mostly you, maybe Ryan, were kind of telling me of all these other shows that tie in and stuff, and I think I purposely avoided it, much like you did Star Wars, because I knew it was just a very endless pit, especially when it comes to shows and series that can be 20 episodes long in a season.
Daredevil was really good. Punisher was, I think, more of a favorite of mine than Daredevil. I never really watched Iron Fist or Luke Cage.
I didn't watch those two either, but I did watch Jessica Jones. First
same.
season of Jessica Jones is top
It's
notch.
really
Like
good.
it's up there for sure.
Yeah.
But the second and third season I don't think I watched, but I would agree. I think maybe I like Daredevil a little bit more, just because I think there's more. I'm a big Spider-Man guy, so there's a little bit more tie to Spider-Man than Punisher has. But I think the Punisher's fantastic. I mean, I think it's the best rendition of Punisher that's ever been done.
Yeah, John Bernthal is a beast. I enjoy most things he's in. But
I can't disagree with that.
Daredevil was really, really good. And I definitely really enjoyed it. And Vincent D'Onofrio's rendition of Kingpin was so unsettling.
On,
he is such a good villain.
Yeah, he is, man. That is the best. I mean, not that there's been any other renditions except for the Daredevil movie of Kingpin live action, but that's the pinnacle for me. I think he nails that role so perfectly. It's almost I always say that Ryan Reynolds is made to play Deadpool. I feel the same way about him in Kingpin. I think they were there. That's his role,
Yeah, he did. He was such a scary person in that role. Sure. He crushed that. So all of that being said, our topic for tonight is actually not related to anything we just talked about in the least bit.
You're right.
But that's okay.
Sorry, you got me talking about Star Wars and Marvel.
No.
I get off.
This is great. So every once in a while we like to have I mean, most of our episodes are pretty chill and laid back. Whenever we come up with our topics or whatever, they're all generally pretty loose. We're just like, hey, do you want to talk about period piece TV shows? And Nick's like, yeah. And so like that's literally as far, as much detail as we go when we pick our topics. So but we like to every once in a while have an even more laid back type of episode where we just kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about. So that's that was kind of the goal with our episode tonight. But we haven't really talked about video games in a while, and so we kind of wanted to have a video game related, chill episode where we just kind of talk about whatever comes up in video games. So I say all that to tell you, like, don't feel bad about derailing this show, because we don't really have rails to begin with, so it's okay. But I mean, the new gen consoles just came out, right?
Yes, they did. And
was it like last week or something?
Yeah, the PS5 launched last Thursday, and I think the Xbox was a couple days before that. And while they are extremely difficult to get your hands on one, I have the avenue of working part-time at GameStop, so I was able to actually pick up a PS5. And
Nice.
it is, I know you guys are mostly PC gamers, right?
These days.
Yeah, these days, but I think it's safe to say that we are all PlayStation fanboys.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. I wasn't expecting that, honestly. The only thing that I could remember from like when you and I worked together, Mike, was when we used to go to lunch together and play FIFA. I think at
that game,
Dave's house.
That game was so fun.
Oh man, it was so fun. And that was like my first time ever playing FIFA, and it was like an absolute blast. I loved it.
Yeah, talk about addicting. That freaking
right.
soccer game on 360 was like crack.
I remember people in college just going crazy over that.
So
yeah,
fun.
I think it's still relatively popular. I haven't played a FIFA game in the past couple years, at least. I think maybe 19 was the most recent one I played, but
I'm pretty sure that they have pro FIFA leagues. Like,
for sure. Yeah.
I'm kind of really dorky, and like I get into esports, and like I have an esport organization that I follow religiously. Like I have a Cloud9 mouse pad. I have like hoodies, beanies, a jersey, like so like I don't really follow the esports games like FIFA or Madden or NBA 2K, whatever. But yeah, I do know at least that FIFA is one of the more
they
popular
do. I think
sporty esports games.
I don't really follow the FIFA one, but I don't want to say closely follow, but somewhat follow the Madden one. I think it's just because the Madden one's so much more popular, and it's on Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
And
honestly, out of all the sporting esports games, the one that I have watched the most is the NBA 2K one. Just because like I like how their league kind of is formed, where they actually have teams that resemble like the NBA teams. Like Cleveland has a team, or there's like a Cavs team or whatever, and they like actually have giraffes. Like it's pretty crazy. Like you'd have to look into it. I can't explain it very well because I don't follow it very closely, but it's kind of funny and interesting.
yeah, definitely. I definitely like how amped up that, at least on the Madden one, these guys get. They're always rocking their team's jersey, and it's fun to watch, definitely.
Yeah. The
but I think
interesting thing,
any esports is kind of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it's like maybe. Oh hey, I'll steal your phrase from you. We'll stick a pin in esports, for later. But
That's a whole episode.
Hey. But yeah,
Steal my tagline.
I know, right? I had to do it. I tease you about it so much. I had to do it. But one last thing before we move on from esports. Maybe we'll come back. Maybe we won't. We'll see where fate leads us. But the funny thing about the basketball league is like it's actually five people playing on the same team against 5 other people playing on the same team. And I'm unlike Madden where I think it's 1-on-1 typically, right?
Yes.
Like it's one
yes.
player controlling the whole team. Like,
They
yeah,
they might have like divisions where there's 2v2 because you can't do it in Madden, but I don't know that I've ever seen it, to be honest.
Yeah, so watching the basketball one, there's actually like 5 people, making up the actual 5 players in the game.
Oh, really?
So,
That's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, so yeah, tell us about your experience with the PlayStation 5 so far.
I tell you what, man, I have had nothing but the greatest time of my life playing this thing, if I'm being honest. I'll give you a quick story of going to get it because I think it's kind of funny. So I took my kids to go with me to get it, and they handed us the box. And I don't know if you guys have looked into this thing at all, but it's big. And I drive a Subaru WRX. I would say I was just shy of struggling to get it into my car. Like just shy of it being a process, So
Dang, dude.
like it's the biggest console box I've ever seen in my life. And then unboxing it and opening it up, it's the biggest console I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's massive. Like I don't even know how to compare it to anything. I would say it's like maybe like not a gaming PC because those are huge, but maybe like a regular PC tower.
Dang.
But slightly bigger. I don't know, dude. It's I mean, next
How
to
many-
my PS4 Pro.
How many PS2s is it if you were to like stack them up? Like 3 of them?
It's probably, I don't know.
Obviously
that's
the original.
tough because the original PS2, it's
Yeah.
probably 3. If you were like stack them up, it's probably 2 in height, maybe a little
Man,
bit less.
They
And
must
then
be
it's
building
very
just
small.
so much in there
I mean,
into
it's-
them now.
I mean,
Thick boys.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's like I have pictures of it next to my PS4 Pro, and the PS4 Pro is not tiny. It's not massive, but it dwarfs the PS4 Pro.
You'll have to throw that picture in Discord or text it to me. I want to see the
I'll
size
send
comparison.
it to you guys.
I remember
And-
the PS2 Slim, and that thing just like screamed at me. I played it so much, and it was just so small. Like I just knew it was getting hot and upset.
Right.
Yeah. I've
that's
honestly like. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I grew up playing Super Nintendo. Like I have very, 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 very vague memories of like the regular Nintendo, but like the most clear early day Mike gaming memories were playing like Mario World 3 or whatever and Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest on Super Nintendo. And like Donkey Kong Country and whatever with my dad, and it was like super fun. But we went basically straight from Super Nintendo to PlayStation, and then pretty much was on PlayStation my entire gaming life, except for the short stint of the 360 when we worked together, Chad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that, and then like saw the error in my ways. I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
And then I was like, I need a PlayStation. Got a PlayStation 3, and then got a PlayStation 4 on release. And then I kind of when our first daughter was born, I kind of switched over to PC gaming because my PlayStation was down in our basement at the time, and my wife goes to bed at like 7:00 because she's like 90 years old. So like she would be asleep or whatever, and our daughter would be like falling asleep or like in that weird stage as a newborn where she was like asleep for an hour and then woke up, and then she'd have to be like held or rocked or whatever until she
Right.
went down for the
Yeah.
whole night. So I switched to playing League of Legends on my laptop, like by her little swing or whatever. so I could
Right.
just
Yeah.
like stop if I needed to instead of like taking her down the basement or whatever. And then kind of haven't gone back to a console since, which kind of makes me sad, but also like I'm fully aware of my extremely crippling addiction to League of Legends and know that like I can't play anything else no matter how much I want to
Right.
and how hard I try.
Right.
Like I just can't
Yeah.
get the needle out of my arm. But yeah, so like
Speaking of addiction, good thing
Dude.
you're not.
dude, I'm telling you, like I've been playing this game religiously for 5.5 years now, and like I keep trying to play other things. Like I buy games on Steam, and like I see trailers for games, and I'm like, that game looks so cool, like that story looks amazing, or like that multiplayer or whatever looks really fun, and then I play it for like 5 hours, and I'm like, I need to go back to League.
Right. Yeah. So, Nick, what's your console history? And then I'll kind of break down my
Yeah,
path
so
like Mike did.
yeah, it's a good topic. My siblings were both like 10 years older than I. So being much younger though, I was able to play their consoles. So I played the original NES the most, like up to like 7 years old maybe. And then I think I went like straight to a PlayStation, like from the NES. So like I have a huge gap when it comes to like the 64. Like my brother had a 64, but he never really let me play it. And then PlayStation 2, skipped the PlayStation 3 and had a 360, which I'm not mad about, because I love the 360, and I think just like everyone that I played with at the time, that's what they had, and there's just like a lot of good games on it. And then switched back to the PlayStation 4 here, but all through that time, I've always played PC like right along with it since the PlayStation 1. I had like a Toshiba laptop from like a 1999 Toshiba laptop that was just a brick, but it played Age of Empires just fine.
Yeah. But like in between my Super Nintendo and then PlayStation, like I had a stint with a Dreamcast. I had a Dreamcast for a little while. Never had a Nintendo 64, never had a GameCube. I kind of like after the Super Nintendo, kind of never picked up another Nintendo console unless you count like Game Boys as a console.
Yeah,
Would you guys count Game Boys as a console?
Yeah. I would count it as a console.
Yeah,
For sure it's a handheld, but
I had Game Boy
In Star
Color
Wars-
for a really long time. Just because I couldn't stop playing Pokemon. But then I think I got a Wii like 3 years after it released. It was super cheap. I got a Wii U like 3 years after it released because it was super cheap. Never played either one of them. I actually still have my Wii U sitting down here in my basement somewhere, and it hasn't been turned on in like 4 years.
yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, other than the 360, I didn't mess around with the original Xbox. Didn't mess around with the Xbox One. Nah, probably never going to touch a Series X. Did you do any like Sega stuff, Nick?
No.
No.
Like only if it like my friends had it and I was at their house. I never like had one.
No.
Yeah,
All right, what's up with
so-
you, Chad? Let's hear it.
So I was actually one of the rare kids that did not have a Nintendo system when I was growing up. I actually was one of like Nick's friends that had a Sega. I had a Sega Genesis. That's the earliest console that I remember having. And that kind of trips some people out when I tell them that I'm like a super gamer, but I never had an NES or an SNES. But it was,
I mean,
it
it
was cool
happens.
because all my friends had them.
Right.
You know?
But then Sega was like more mature, right? Though, because like Mortal
Right.
Kombat actually had blood in it,
Yeah.
unlike
Yeah.
Super Nintendo where it didn't
And-
have any.
And that's kind of, I mean, Sega had its little kid games, Sonic and that kind of stuff. But it did have the more mature games. And then at least from my memory, I remember going from the Genesis to a PlayStation, and that was kind of where the hooks got into me as far as video games went, because one of my favorite games of all time is Metal Gear Solid, the original one on the PlayStation.
So good.
And
Yeah.
it's just, even to this day, I have a PlayStation Vita, and I actually had it on my Vita and just rebeat it like a year ago. And it's still so good. Like, some of those games don't hold up very well when you go back and play them, but maybe it's just nostalgia talking, but Metal Gear does for me.
Oh man.
But that was kind of like where I was like, whoa, video games can be way more than Mario and Sonic and mindless Mortal Kombat beat 'em up games and that kind of stuff.
Right.
That was like when it became like an action movie, and now you're playing an action movie.
So
And
is Vita the most recent handheld? That wasn't PlayStation's first handheld, right?
no,
I always forget what
PlayStation's
the first one.
handheld was the PSP.
That's right.
PSP then Vita. They're very similar, but
Yeah.
They are very similar. They do look almost the same. They're much the Vita's much larger and thinner, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the games don't look anything. I mean, they're much better on the Vita, I think. But the Vita, for me, I love the Vita, but Sony just did not support it. That's really what it comes down to, is they put their like baseline launch games on it, and it actually launched with an Uncharted game, which was, in my opinion, better than the first Uncharted game. So,
wow,
it had its good game. I mean,
I had a short stint with the Vita and only remember playing Guacamelee on it, and that was super fun.
Oh yeah, Guacamelee. Yeah.
But
it's a fun game to play on there, though.
dude, it is. But man, that's pretty crazy if the Vita Uncharted was better than the first Uncharted, because
I think
the first
Uncharted.
Yeah, it has its because I just recently, like a couple years ago, replayed the first one when I bought like all three of them right before 4 came out, and I think it lost some of its luster after the next 2 came out for sure.
Right.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the shooting feels kind of weird.
It's kind of clunky. Yeah,
it's a little clunky on Uncharted 1, and I don't know. It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. And back then it was groundbreaking.
Right.
But it's
I think they're
by every single one of them. I think
that first Uncharted game holds like a special place in my gaming heart, though, because that game kicked off my need for achievements and trophies. That was the first game that I like 100%ed platinum trophied, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, hang on. Let me break down the rest of my concept,
keep going. Sorry.
So I went from, where was I? I went from the Sega to the PlayStation, and then PlayStation to the PlayStation 2. And then I did get a 360, and that was kind of my breakaway from Sony for a little bit, was the 360.
I feel like that's everyone's like bi-curious stage of gaming life. They're like,
and I think it's because,
hey, let's try it out, right?
Yeah, I think it's because there's a reason for that. You want to hear it? You want to know what I think the obvious reason for that is? Because the PS3 launched at a ridiculous price.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that is true.
I think it was like, I could be wrong, but I think it was like $699.
Yeah, it was incredibly expensive.
Absurd.
Yeah.
So that
even
really
compared to the 360,
off.
It was super expensive. Because the 360 was like $400.
$300 or $400. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they came way under them, and they just crushed them.
Yeah. So I think I'm not in the. I'm probably in the majority of people that switched there. However, my time with Microsoft was absolutely atrocious. So I got 5 red rings.
Oh.
2 of them were under warranty, so I didn't have to pay for 2 of them. But either way, okay, 5 red rings. 1 red ring is annoying. Insane. Okay. So after my 5th red ring, and I think at the time Circuit City was still open, and they had a demo of Uncharted 2, the train sequence from Uncharted 2, and I played it at Circuit City. And I was like, okay, listen, I have to get a PlayStation because I have to play this Uncharted. Because growing up, I loved Indiana Jones, and it's very reminiscent of that. It's like a modern day, Indiana Jones to me. So I was like, I have to. I can't buy another 360 and get another Red Ring. I just can't do it. So then I switched over to. Go ahead.
When you had your 360, did you have Big Mike from work like hack it for you?
Yes, actually, one of them was hacked, and I think yes, I did. But
that was the best.
It was.
So Nick,
it was.
This guy that we worked with, like our direct supervisor at the car dealership we worked at, like hacked all of our 360s for us so we could play burnt copies of games, and then he would get like any game that you could possibly imagine and just like give it to us for a couple bucks, if at all. And
my roommate in college
I don't even think we paid for them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he just he so like I was playing like every game under the sun. It was amazing and glorious while it lasted.
I actually think upstairs somewhere in my gaming collection, I have a game that he gave me that was burnt because I remember seeing it. That's funny you brought that up. I actually totally forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
So,
I
Big Mike,
did.
I know for a fact, 100%, you're not listening to this, but for some strange reason, if you ever stumble across this episode of a completely obscure podcast of people who are no longer in your life, thank you for that incredible experience of playing burnt 360 games for however long we were able to do that. It was amazing.
Abundant amount of money.
Yes.
You saved us a ton of money that Microsoft just got out of me eventually anyway, so.
That's so true.
Continue on after 360.
So on the 360, that was kind of your League of Legends, where I only played multiplayer games. It was only Halo. It was only Call of Duty. That was my multiplayer time, if you will. It was a long time. I think the 360 generation lasted 10 years, maybe shy of 10 years. So it was a long time that I was playing multiplayer games. But once I switched over to the PS3, and I had I probably switched over to a PS3 in 08, 09 maybe. So I had quite the build-up backlog of PS exclusive games that I had to catch up on.
It's like a treasure trove just waiting for
it. And it really is. And they're all fantastic. I mean, majority of them are fantastic. So I kind of dove into single-player narrative-driven games, starting, with Uncharted, and I never really got out of that pit. And that's where I'm still at today. I can't not, for the life of me, tell you the last time I played a multiplayer game. I played the most recent Call of Duty for 2 days, and I was like, okay, I got a ton of other games that I'd rather be playing.
Sounds terrible.
Right. And then you thought about hanging yourself, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should stop playing this.
May cause suicide.
So then it's been only PlayStation for me from there on out. I had a Xbox One, and I gotta be honest with you, it sat on my shelf, collected dust after I played the most recent Halo at the time, which might have been Guardians. And I eventually traded it in, and I don't know that I'll ever buy a Microsoft product again. I think they, at least in my personal experience, they've burnt their bridges with me. I was pretty diehard Microsoft. So, had I not got those red rings and had the awful experience that I did with the 360, I might still be an Xbox gamer, but there's just something about when I went back to the PS or got a PS3, I kind of missed the games where you actually have to use your mind to play them. You know what I mean? And it sounds kind of crappy, but I had been playing Halo and Call of Duty for so long, and it's just kind of mindless. I mean, there's games some tactics to it.
Yeah, they require you to be more than a single cell organism to play.
Right.
Yeah.
And and I missed that, and that's really what I love about gaming. So
Yeah.
I really missed it, and once I got into Uncharted, and I was like, I think like at the end of Uncharted 1, I actually had to like look up a walkthrough. I was like, oh man, I miss this kind of gaming where I like can't figure it out, and now I have to go to the internet to try and figure out what the heck's going on. I just
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so one thing, and then I would love to dive into Uncharted and Naughty Dog and all that stuff. I had an experience, I think it was with my PlayStation 2, where I had like their equivalent of the red rings, like I had the disc read error. And my experience with Sony's customer service back then, so like I was still in high school, so this was like somewhere between 2000 and 2005. They were so good. Like, I just sent it to them, and then they fixed it, and then they sent it back. And like, I didn't even have to pay for shipping. I didn't have to pay for anything. And I bought the PlayStation off of somebody from my school, so like, it wasn't. I didn't even buy it new or anything. And I had that happen twice, and they fixed it both times, and it was amazing. And like,
Right, yeah. See,
ever since then, I was like, oh, Sony, like, dude, you guys rule. Like,
yeah,
guys
yeah,
really
they're
enjoy
top
that.
notch. Yeah, they're top notch, and they're still like that today. And I think that's like another big thing for me is because I had the same experience with the 360 and the red rings, where I had purchased them either pre-owned from GameStop or off of a friend or something, and they would not fix them. So, I mean, there's much more to dive into it as far as my experience with Microsoft. I'm not going to do it because I'll be here all night, but I just want you just know that they don't sit pretty with me as far as gaming consoles go, at least. But
did you have any type of like hardships with your PlayStations, Nick, at all, or?
I mean, my like PS2 Slim, it occasionally wouldn't read a disc, and you just kind of like hit it and like smack the disc, and it eventually would work. But that's like the
Nice.
extent of it. But it was
the
old,
equivalent
and
of blowing out the cartridge.
yeah, I mean, it was old, and I played the shit out of it, so I didn't
Yeah.
blame it too much.
right.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, I really feel like, Chad, you and I are like the same person because our gaming experiences are so similar.
I gotta tell you, man, when I heard you guys start talking about Uncharted, and I got so excited because I honestly, I would have pinned you guys as not PlayStation guys because I thought you were like PC exclusive guys now, and I only remember Mike playing the 360. So I'm
No,
super excited that you guys said that.
The PC stuff really, like, just started within the last 5 years, and even then it was, like I said, pretty much all League of Legends. Well, that's actually not true. Let's rewind. Back in my early 20s, I played a lot of World of Warcraft. Like, a lot. Not as much as Nick, but like,
I mean,
I loved it.
I definitely had a stint with World of Warcraft, so
yeah. So
large
I
stint.
guess that would have been like the
A
start.
large.
That would have been the like beginning of my PC gaming experience, but it was limited to World of Warcraft. And then like I realized how terrible my crippling World of Warcraft addiction was. Again, this is a constant theme in my life. Crippling
Right.
addictions to
Yeah, I mean,
stuff that's
I'm right there
actually
with you, man.
luckily it's stuff that's actually not deadly or crippling, but
yeah.
at the time, like, well, it still is a big thing, like hacking and like stealing and buying World of Warcraft accounts and like gold farmers and gold bots and stuff like that. But back then it was, a little more prevalent just because the game was in a more popular state than it is now. So I had bought an authenticator and like linked it to my account, like the keychain authenticator. So like I'd have to push a button, it would randomly generate a series of numbers, and I would have to enter that whenever I would log into World of Warcraft. So that way I could make sure my account wasn't getting hacked. And when I decided to quit playing World of Warcraft, like just uninstalling it and unsubscribing like wouldn't cut it. So like I literally like threw away my authenticator. I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And like I threw it in the dumpster at my apartment complex. And I'm like, I got to get my life back. And then like I didn't play WoW, obviously, because I wasn't going to go through the hassle of being like, I lost my authenticator. Can you like let me back in my account?
Right, yeah.
I wasn't going to go through all that. So like that's how I beat World of Warcraft. But like then I didn't play PC games at all up until my daughter was born. But
Right,
even
yeah.
so, it's just League of Legends, and then like the occasional Steam game, or like I think the most recent game I bought was the remake of Resident Evil 2, and that was like
Oh,
a couple months ago. Because the Resident
Yeah.
Evil games, I think, are aside from like your triple play or MVP baseball, like back in the day, or like your Madden or whatever, like that was the
Right.
first PlayStation game I like remember playing was Resident Evil 2.
oh, yeah,
And
man.
like such a good game. And like that, like you were saying, where like when you discovered Uncharted and you're like, oh, I have to like figure stuff out, and like
Yeah.
like that was my first experience like that. Plus it's like a terrifying game to play like in
Right.
the dark and by
Yeah.
yourself. So like
Yeah.
that was the first one that really pulled me into the non-sports games after Nintendo. But like, so it went on sale, a handful of months ago for like $20 on Steam, the remake. So I bought that, and it looks absolutely gorgeous on my PC. And I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. Like, I love this, bringing back so many memories, and it looks beautiful. But I played it for like 5 hours, and I was like, oh man, I got to start grinding on League. Like,
Oh man. So basically all you did was replace your World of Warcraft addiction with League of Legends is what I'm gathering,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And there's no
Yeah.
authenticator, so like I'm screwed
I
unless
think that
somebody removes my PC from my house.
Yeah. I think I think that Resident Evil 2 is right up there for my favorite PlayStation games of all time, original PlayStation.
Yeah.
And they did a phenomenal job with that remake. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, they're so
And
good.
it's so good.
Well-
It is so good.
Well, I mean, the
and it
5
looks-
hours I've played is amazing.
Right, yeah.
But you
I
think
actually
about it
went-
while playing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
went a little over on that game and got like, I don't know if I got the platinum on it, but there's like you can unlock an unlimited SMG,
No.
and you have to beat the game within like a certain amount of, like, it's like 3 hours or 4 hours or something like that. It's pretty much like beelining past everything and
speed
getting
run.
all. Yeah, it's a speed run, and
Nice.
I did that, and that like took a couple years off my life, I think, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Oh man. So Nick, what was so I know like you had a huge chunk of your life in World of Warcraft, similar to me, but even more so. But aside from WoW, like so how Chad has Uncharted and I have Resident Evil, what was like the first game that you played that kind of like opened your mind's eye to like, whoa, this is what gaming can be, like this is what it can do?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tie that into like a hot take I have about consoles and PC. So, that game was probably like Age of Empires, because before that it was really just kind of like NES and the older consoles. But then I got a laptop and started playing Age of Empires, and I just kind of really fell in love with strategy games. Obviously, ones where you have to think and like plan and all that kind of stuff. And that's really where I kind of got into it. But where I deviate though, and the reason I still have consoles rather than most, is PCs are for my strategy games or like simulation games, things like that. And the console is for the first person shooters and the RPGs, because I do not think they're better on the PC, contrary to what everyone likes to think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that, but I also feel like that hot take I want to say largely depends on like what you grew up playing. So like my experience learning how to play first person shooters and learning how to play RPG type games, like your action RPG type games, not like your MMO RPG games.
Mm-hmm,
We're
right.
all on console with a controller. So like when I tried to pick up a mouse and keyboard and play a Call of Duty or whatever, like I was god awful and like looked like I was playing left-handed or something. Like I can't control a shooter with a mouse and a keyboard, but like I don't know. Yeah. All that to say I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it adds to me it adds a level of control because people just like get a little batshit with their gaming configurations with mouse and keyboard. You know, like they turn around instantly and all that kind of stuff. It's just way more precise, and real life is not that precise. Like real life, you are slow and stupid and you die.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I have a gaming PC, and
Okay.
and it's a relatively. My brother-in-law actually built a new computer, so he gave me his, and I think by today's standards, it's probably still pretty good, actually. But I'm such a spaz when it comes to PC gaming that I literally spend majority of my time trying to optimize the game and make it look beautiful and run beautiful, and that I don't play the game. So it's like where
Yeah.
I'm at in my life now, I have 2 kids, I have minimal times to play games. I need to play the game. I don't need to,
Right.
you know what I mean? And that's probably
Yeah.
just a personal problem I have. But
Yeah. Well, like
I
with the
just can't- I
console,
can't
you
help it.
can't really do that because like
right.
It's
It's
all
getting a little.
streamlined
It's
for
starting
you.
to get. Yeah, it's starting to get a little more in depth because the PS5 has a lot of graphical things that you can change. But
Oh, nice.
it's just something about the package is like put together for you and it's ready to go and you just gotta start playing. I think that, at least for me personally, and I'm sure you can get that on PC, but not the way that I do it. You know what I mean? Like I can't get away from the going through the settings and making sure everything's working properly and it's running at 60 FPS and yada yada yada. It's just, I'm a spaz when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. So Naughty Dog here. I think, like, this is just my opinion, but I want to say that in my view, Naughty Dog could kind of be considered the savior of the PlayStation, right? Because coming
Yes.
off
Yeah.
the end of the PlayStation 2 life cycle and then into the disastrous release of the PlayStation 3, I feel like if Naughty Dog wasn't there with such a strong game as Uncharted and then, Uncharted 2 and then the third installment and then, slapping you in the face with The Last of Us there towards the end of the PS3, like I feel like if we didn't have such strong games like that, like the PlayStation could have really been in a bad spot, right?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that comment for sure. I think that
Because like what did Microsoft have aside from like the Halo stuff, right?
Halo, Gears, Forza,
Yeah. Gears,
some other
Forza.
obscure. Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anything else that
Yeah, so like
stands
so
out. I mean,
basically
they
you
had
have,
their
like,
exclusives, but
yeah,
They
but, so you have like Halo, which is obviously a groundbreaking and like monumental historic game, right? Like
for sure.
it's a console defining exclusive, right? Yeah, the original
Right.
Xbox, you have Halo.
Yep.
But then, Gears is just a reskin of Halo, right? It's your
Essentially, yeah.
third person shooter, like what does it do really to take it up a level from Halo? Like like I played Gears, like the storytelling wasn't that much of a leap from Halo.
No, yeah, I don't get the Gears hype, to be honest with you. I think you nailed it kind of perfectly there. It's like a third-person reskin of Halo.
And then, obviously you have like the racing games, the Forzas and things like that. But I think what Uncharted Uncharted, but more specifically Naughty Dog was able to accomplish with the Uncharted series and then really, really like nail in The Last of Us, at least part 1, because I haven't played part 2, is being able to basically create an interactive movie for you to play.
Yeah.
The way that they're able to execute their storytelling in the medium of video games while also coupling that with like really cool gameplay systems and like I don't know what the other word I'm trying to think of, and like the games themselves look beautiful, is just like the perfect storm for amazing video game experience. Not so much with the Uncharted games because they're like the stories were really captivating and serious, but they were kind of like lighthearted, and Nathan Drake is like a whimsical, like quippy, like he's really funny.
Yep.
But like in The Last of Us, when I finally beat that game, like I was emotionally exhausted, and
Oh, for sure.
I
Yeah,
always tell
absolutely.
people my experience playing that game to completion, like
It's intense.
that was more enjoyable and a better told story, in my opinion, than like 90% of movies that were coming out at the time, and probably still. Like,
I definitely agree, and I think that's because as far as stories in video games, from my perspective, they're so much better because you're an active participant in that story. You know what I mean? Instead of a observer watching a movie and watching the story. Not that movies can't tell great stories. That's not what I'm trying to say. Obviously they can, but I feel like you're much more emotionally invested in game stories because you're actually participating in it.
right, you're the one that's pushing it forward.
Right. And Naughty Dog has, I mean, they have absolutely nailed the way that they tell stories. And there's a ton of great studios that tell great stories in their games. But like every time a Naughty Dog game comes out, I'm like, why are they so much better at this than everybody else? Like what is going on here that they're like miles ahead of everyone else? And if you're stuck over on Xbox, it sucks that you kind of miss those experiences. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing that I love that Naughty Dog does is like they put so much work and effort into the cutscenes and like the motion capture and the voice acting, that like if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff of the Uncharted games and the Last of Us game, like watching them film the cutscenes is like just as entertaining as watching the actual cutscene itself.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
it's like a full blown production. Like they're in the mocap
Yeah, they're
suits.
filming a movie.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
good, and like the voice acting is like so amazing. Like
Yeah, and that
they
might
just
be
take every little aspect so seriously.
right. And that might be why the voice acting comes and there's a lot of other studios that do it the same way, but the voice acting comes across so much better in that because they're actually acting the scenes out versus being behind a mic. And I don't know if you guys ever watched any videos of like interviews with voice actors and stuff. They say that the best voice actors don't just use their voice to act. They're like behind their mic, throwing their body around and acting like they're actually in the scene,
Right.
and that's where you get that emotion. So I think when Naughty Dog started doing that with Uncharted, and they might be the first, to my knowledge, to do it that way, as far as the motion capture actually being the actors who are also voice acting. I think that is maybe what puts them above, or at least started everybody else doing the same thing, because the scenes are just so much more put together and more emotional when you have all that stuff going at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. It might be a combination of things in my mind of like I never really paid attention to that stuff before, and like I played those games, excuse me, at an age where like the more mature storytelling was more appealing to me. But like you said, I never noticed that level of detail or remember hearing or seeing like the behind the scenes stuff of how other games do it, like, so in my mind, like that could very well could be the first, the pioneer of that level of detail and execution in those aspects of the game and the story. But yeah, man, those games. I mean, Uncharted is like the perfect combination of like Indiana Jones and like Tomb Raider, right?
Right.
It is.
And it's just
yeah,
such a fun
a
game.
lot of people call it like Man Raider or whatever. It's like Tomb Raider with a guy, but it's so much. I played the Tomb Raider games and the more recent Tomb Raider games, and now currently they're just trying to copy Uncharted. So maybe
Right.
Uncharted might have copied some of their stuff, but they perfected it.
Right.
So there's a difference when somebody can take something and copy it, then that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good game. But if they
Right.
perfect that thing that they're trying to copy, that sometimes propels them, past the original game that they were copying. So Uncharted to me is just, it's next level as far as gaming at the time was and storytelling. And a lot of people, what's your guys' favorite Uncharted?
It's a good question. I'll let Nick go first.
I really like 2. I think it was just like a good middle ground between obviously the first one and then kind of how, the first one was trying a lot of new things and it did a lot of those things really good because they were kind of pioneering something there, the way you interacted through the story. And then 2, I just felt like perfected all that because everything became much more fluid and more seamless, and less clunky like we were talking about before. And then 3 just kind of, 3's really good too, obviously, but it doesn't have that good middle ground. I think they got a little bit too, try and do too much. And I always feel like that's how like the third games always kind of go when it comes to a trilogy.
Did you play 4?
No, I have 4 sitting on my shelf. I need to play it.
I think my favorite. That's good. It's been so long since I've played those 3. I haven't played the 4th one, because that came out during my transition to PC.
League of Legends addiction? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So my memory isn't super clear on the happenings in each of the games, but I have very distinct fond memories of the first one. But I do remember liking the second one because, like you said, Nick, like it kind of improved on the things that they built and established in the first game. And then I think I remember being three being my least favorite. So I would say probably like my favorite would probably be 2, but like just barely above 1, and then 3 being my least favorite. And then 4 I haven't played, so I can't give an opinion on it.
Yeah,
I'm going to go play right now.
Yeah,
See
you
you,
guys
Nick.
definitely need to play 4. I mean, it's well, let me give you my opinion, and then you'll understand where I'm coming from. For I'm gonna kind of separate them a little bit from the original trilogy. To me, 3 was my favorite, and that might have been because I had bought a PS3 right as 3 was releasing, so it was like the game I couldn't wait to get to as I was playing through Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2. They're all fantastic. And 2 is, I think, probably the majority favorite of most people. But I kind of feel like a lot of the hate that 3 gets is only because 2 came out first. And if they had been swapped and 3 came out first and 2 came out after, that people would like 3 more than they do. So, and that might be I don't know. I just think the set pieces in 3 are so much better. The plane crash and the whole desert scene is amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's bringing back memories now. Don't you, like, drive through, like, a little desert town in a Jeep or something?
Yeah. But that plane crash scene, man, is just, even today, even playing the remastered one, it's just so awesome. I love every minute of all the Uncharted games, but that's, like, top outside of the train sequence in 2, which is, legendary, I would say. But, that being said, 4 is easily my favorite. I think that it's just perfect. It's the perfect Uncharted game. You guys definitely need to play it. You need to drop the League of Legends for at least 8 hours or however long it's going to take you to beat it. And then
let me borrow your PlayStation then, because I don't have one anymore.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Mike, just come over and watch me play it. You'll be like a movie.
There you go. Yeah, why don't you just stream it and I'll just watch you, because I
There you
totally
go.
could enjoy
idea.
watching that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
Have a stream party.
Hey, Showboys plays games. New idea.
I've been trying to figure out what I'm gonna play next, and like that's how I'm like stuck on Dig or Die right now, just because I knew it was like an easy filler that I could just pick up and then drop when I did figure it out. So maybe it's Uncharted.
You might want to say that game name just a little bit slower next time, just so we don't get canceled.
Dig or Die. What does that sound like? I'll think about that. Oh, wow. That's terrible.
Hey, you said it, man.
I didn't.
Just try to keep you from getting canceled, bro.
If it's a game that Steam allows on, it would already been canceled. Unless it's like a black market game.
Yeah. Wow. Just watch your mouth, okay?
Okay, I will.
One thing that I really appreciated about Uncharted is like the unique combination of shooter mechanics and gameplay with like cool platforming.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's definitely its bread and butter for sure.
Yeah, just like there's just something about like hanging off walls or like cliffs or something and like shooting guys that are chasing you or whatever. I don't know. It had like the perfect combination of both.
Now that when you say that kind of makes me feel like what they did in 1, they perfected with The Last of Us.
Oh yeah. So like Chad, your feelings about Uncharted are like my feelings about The Last of Us, which is like The Last of Us is the greatest game ever created and like my favorite gaming experience of all time.
I'm there with you. Yeah, I'm there with you for sure. The original Last of Us is probably, I have to really think about it, but it's probably my favorite game I've ever played. It's the best story I've ever played in a game. It's the only one of the few games where I've ever gotten like emotional playing it.
Yeah,
so
even
for
like,
a video game to do that, man.
Just that opening sequence, like, really gets the waterworks going.
Yeah, it's heart wrenching, man. It's heart wrenching to watch, and it's beautifully acted, and the rest of the game kind of continues it, you know. Yeah. And I think that while 2 got a lot of hate, which I'm sure you guys have read or at least seen, I think it's up there with The Last of Us, in my opinion. I thought it was an amazing story. I think that if you read the leaks, that story might sound awful if you read a 5-minute leak from a 30-hour story. Of course, it's going to sound terrible. But the way that it's presented and the way that it's done, it is. I mean, it's The Last of Us. I mean, it's right up there for me.
So you're telling me that it's crazy that people get completely outraged over taking something completely out of context?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and especially, I can't stand... This is like a pet peeve with the gaming community that I have, is that people get outraged by these stories that it's not your story to tell. So like
Right.
Mass Effect 3 is an example of that. I don't know if you guys ever played any of the Mass Effect games.
Yes. Great
So-
games.
I have not, but Nick
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, they're great games, but Mass Effect 3 got a lot of hate because of the way that it ended the story, and that drives me nuts because it's like these people like I can't stand the like cancel culture type of thing that's going on today where the internet
Same.
like dog piles on somebody and
Yeah.
ruins
We're gonna have a
their
whole episode
career.
about that. You're invited.
Yeah. Yes, I'm in because I can't stand it.
Honest question.
And-
Could Mass Effect 3 be like the beginning of cancel culture?
That's what I was just trying to think about.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know if it's the beginning, but it's the one it's the earliest one that sticks into my mind as far as the gaming community goes.
Well, it's kind of like it might be one of the first early gaming examples of kind of like maybe The Sopranos or when shows have an ending that
Yep.
people are not happy with, or
Right.
Lost, I hear, has an ending like that.
Yep.
I
Sopranos
think
is a good one for sure.
Yeah, I think Mass Effect 3 took that because that was when everyone was just they were 1 and 2 were so good and everyone just thought they were perfect, and then one weird narrative decision, to end the trilogy, really made a bunch of
But at the
people
same
upset.
time, right? But at the same time, it's like it's not your story to tell. That's the way they intended to tell the story. Same with The Sopranos. That's the way he intended to end it, and you should just consume it and move on with your life. You don't need to. Like with The Last of Us, people are outraged by the leaks on The Last of Us, and the voice actors were like getting death threats and
Yeah,
all this crazy
it's-
stuff. And it is some of the best voice acting I've ever seen in a game. So these people probably worked their butts off to get the emotion on the
Right.
screen, and then they get this outrage from the community before the game even releases, before anybody
Right.
even plays it. People are outraged because of a leak. And
Can
it's
you
the same.
take-
It's the same comparison that I said earlier. You can't take a 5-minute leak where somebody just tells you the bullet points of a 30-hour story and assume you know all about the story, because
Yeah. Can you?
you know what I mean.
Can you?
It's just that's not how things work.
Right. Can you just like clip that? Well, I guess I can because I will be editing the episode. So we need to
You
clip
clip
that, and then we need to send it to everyone who hated on the Snyderverse DCEU movies.
Yeah. Yep. Same exact
Just
thing.
like-
Same exact thing.
I used to be kind of in that group of people, right? Because like I think the thing is you become such a fan of, for example, a comic book superhero character or whatever, like Superman or Batman, and you get used to reading the comics and you get used to the way the characters are in the books that you're consuming, right? And then it gets adapted into a movie, which is created and written and directed by somebody who was not the author of the books that you've been reading, right? So of course
Right.
their take on the story is going to be their take on the story and the character, and they're going to want to try to tell their own story. So like it's not going to be the exact same Superman or the exact same Batman that you've been reading in the comics. Like let Snyder tell his story using his versions of the characters and just let it play out to completion, and maybe by the end it will all make sense and it'll all come together,
Right.
and it'll be a
Yep.
cool, good, different take on the story. And like that kind of plays into exactly what you're saying, where it's like we fell in love with the characters from The Last of Us, the first one, and like all that we knew from that first game. But then, Naughty Dog clearly had a story they wanted to tell, and that involved telling the story that they had in their minds
Right.
that they wanted to tell. And
Yep.
it
yep.
might not line up with what you have come to love and appreciate in the first game, but that doesn't make it bad. Like,
No, not at
experience
all.
it first. Like
In the-
play the
yeah,
game
exactly.
first, and then if you
Yeah.
still have that same opinion, you're totally entitled to feel that way. But like
Right.
all the hate
most
that
of the
that
people,
game got before it even came out, like you were saying, was like I was, not even planning on playing the game, obviously, because I couldn't, because I didn't have a PlayStation anymore. But I'm like sitting over here, like pulling my hair out. I'm like, what? Like it's not even out. Like
it's insane.
What?
It's insane. It's that kind of cancel culture now. And you said you kind of get caught up in some of it. I kind of get caught up in some of it too, but I don't let it ruin my life. You know what I mean?
You're not
get on the
writing-
internet and type
Yeah,
out long
exactly.
tirades about. You know what I mean?
you're not
The perfect
mailing the
example-
voice actors and like
Yeah, right. Death threats and
Well,
I
I
know you
think,
probably just spent a year perfecting one of the best voice acted characters ever, but you should die because the writer wrote something that I don't like. It's like
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
it's
because it was
insane.
totally the voice actor's choice of how the
Right,
story played
right.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they definitely had a big impact on it. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
You
it's-
realize I'm reading lines that somebody else wrote, right?
Right, right. Yeah, like I'm doing my job and I'm doing it pretty freaking good too. But, but the thing that I kind of, the same thing for me is like, I get that creative freedom is a thing and I like creative freedom and I think that the MCU takes a lot of liberties with that. But the one that like absolutely I can't stand are the Resident Evil movies
Oh,
because
don't even get
and
me
that's-
started.
yeah, man, if they just this is a problem with video game movies. If they just told the story that was in the game, those movies would have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But they took them to like a whole like they're not
The
they're,
only
like,
thing that's
vaguely
similar is the
reminiscent.
title.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. In the company umbrella. That's
Yeah.
like where the similarities end. There's like
Yeah, there's-
characters and stuff, but they're not the
Yeah,
You know,
there's
that
definitely
drives
a
me
fine
nuts.
line. Like you gotta like pay homage and respect your source material,
Right.
and
right.
like loosely follow the source material, but like
Yeah, at least.
you gotta, like-
if you want to tell your own story, that's fine, but you gotta
Yeah.
kind of be in the same universe. You know what I mean?
So-
Same ballpark, at least.
right, exactly. Do you have anything you want to say on this topic here, Nick? Because
Which one?
Chad just threw up a perfect softball segue for the next portion of this episode. So, do you have any hot
Nah.
takes on the video game cancel culture, or anything you want to say particularly about The Last of Us or Uncharted before we move on?
I mean, I think, like you said, the point is, especially, before the game comes out, at least wait for it to come out, play it, right? And then have some sort of constructive feedback. You can completely hate it. That's okay. But, don't attack the voice actors or get on some sort of high horse across the internet about this. Like there's some sort of righteous crusade against something you don't like. Because there's plenty of things I don't like. And usually that's because I have reasons for it. But like Chad said, I don't let it ruin my life. And I'm not attacking the wrong people.
You're not going to ruin other people's lives?
Yeah, over
Right, yeah.
some things I'm upset about. But there is a weird line though there too, because obviously just reading the leaks of that game, there's also that weird thing where these companies do inject certain things into their games for non-narrative driven reasons. Disney, for example. Or, like we were talking about Captain Marvel and all that stuff. But yeah, stuff like that, that's kind of the basis of it, but everybody just goes about it all wrong. So
Yeah. One final thing about The Last of Us and esports. I wish that esports were more of a thing when The Last of Us was out, because the multiplayer for the first Last of Us game was
man.
so fun. And
Very underrated.
yeah, oh my gosh, I spent so much time playing that multiplayer, and the way that the multiplayer played out, I feel like it would be perfectly suited for like teams playing against each other and being able to spectate and like it was slow paced enough to where you could have some like people shoutcasting it, and like, that was so much fun. I had so much fun playing the multiplayer there. But yeah, the perfect softball segue that Chad tossed up so kindly for me. You were talking about games being adapted into movies, which very rarely turn out well.
Right.
But I threw up a post on our Facebook page yesterday, and I asked our audience if you could adapt any movie or show into a video game instead of a video game into a movie or show. If you could take a movie or a show and turn it into a video game, what movie or show would you pick, and what type of game would it be? So I also threw this question out to you guys, so I'm really interested to hear what you guys came up with. And we had a couple people reply to the Facebook post, and I'll read those once we get through ours. So Chad, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, mine's kind of cop-outy, like I had mentioned earlier, but for me, it would be, and I mean, I got a studio and everything that I want to do it, so this might get a little deep here, but
Oh, nice. No, that's
So-
perfect.
the studio I want to helmet is CD Projekt Red. I don't know if you guys know that. They
Not
make
bad,
the Witcher
not bad.
series and Cyberpunk 2077, which is coming out here soon. And the game would be an action RPG, and it would be set in a open world in Westeros, which is the place from Game of Thrones. And I think it's like a no-brainer that somebody hasn't come up with this idea yet, because it would sell like hotcakes. Even if it was terrible, people are probably still going to buy it. But if it was helmed by somebody that can craft a world, and even, it's funny because before, it might have been before the show, have you guys ever watched Game of Thrones, either of you?
I have not, but Nick has, and
I
very much
have.
enjoyed it, if I'm remembering correctly.
So before the show, Bethesda, and before Skyrim, Bethesda was actually approached to make an open world Game of Thrones game, and they turned it down and then did Skyrim. So even if it was Bethesda, I'd prefer it be The Witcher, because I think they're
Did they take that idea? They're like,
I mean, when you look at some of the stuff in,
let's just
when you look
insert
at
that idea into Elder Scrolls and make the same amount of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the enemies in Elder Scroll, in Skyrim specifically, like the skeleton enemies are like totally the whites from Game of Thrones. They got
Someone
blue
could-
eyes and everything.
Yeah, someone
It's-
could probably make a reskin mod of Skyrim for Game of Thrones, to be honest.
Oh
if
yeah,
they put enough work
think
into
it's
it.
I think it is out there actually.
Oh, see, yeah.
Yep.
You want to hear
So-
something funny?
Yeah.
When you text me and you're like, it's a total cop out answer, I totally knew that it was going to be Game of Thrones.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, I was late getting onto Game of Thrones. I picked it up at like maybe the beginning of the 5th season, which was right around when The Witcher 3 came out. And I played them kind of like I always do. Like I told you, I get on kicks and I have to consume everything that's similar. So
Right,
it was
right.
awesome. I mean, watching the show and playing The Witcher was absolutely like one of my fondest modern gaming memories. So,
Nice.
but the whole time, I was just like, man, this would be so cool if it was like the map from Game of Thrones, and you could like go to the wall, and you could go to King's Landing and all this stuff. And I would imagine that maybe, if we're lucky, it's going to come at some point. I think it's a moneymaker, just sitting there
Oh, yeah.
waiting to be taken by somebody.
It would just print money for sure.
It would absolutely. And
They
even
might
if
be able to get
even
it-
if it was
they might-
like, go ahead.
No, I was going to say they might be able to get away with it once they come out with their new series and they start building that world even more.
Right, yeah, I was going to say that, or after the books are over, when they have like a lot of source material to go off, because the Witcher is based off of books too, so they had a lot
Right.
of source material for that.
Well, if that's
Yeah,
the case,
that's my
it'll never
total-
happen.
Right. That's my total cop out answer. I'm like torn between hoping that after Cyberpunk 2077 comes out that they do a Game of Thrones game, but I'm also torn because I kind of want another Witcher game. But I might just want another Witcher game because it's so close to Game of Thrones. So
Right.
I don't know which
Well,
side I fall on there.
CD Project Red. I doubt you're listening to this, but if you are, I can get you in contact with our friend Chad. He's got a great idea for you.
I mean,
It'll literally
I got it
print you
planned out,
money.
man. I've thought deeply about this topic.
You
Might
know,
be a
you say
cop
it's
out answer, but I've got the plan for you.
It is. It's not a cop out answer because that I feel is like perfectly suited for that style of game, right? I think the only Game of Thrones games that are out right now are like crappy, terrible mobile games, right?
Right. Yep.
So
I mean, they had a Telltale game that came out that was like a.
Oh yeah,
do you
yeah.
guys ever played any of the Walking Dead games? The Telltale Walking Dead games?
I did,
Probably
yeah,
not, but-
play a few or like
Yeah,
one of
so
the
they have a
first
Game of
ones or
Thrones
whatever.
version of that.
Nice. That
But
makes
as
sense.
far
I
as
remember- I
open
know.
world or anything,
Yeah, that would be perfect. It's just like you said, like The Witcher is a perfectly fine comparison, and you make that style of game in that Game of Thrones, universe and world, like just
right?
there's so
And
much
if
so
you
much
start-
potential there.
Oh, you could do so much with it. Like if you added in like some of the like castle sieges from like Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, the Lord of the Rings games, and you
yeah.
like had to conquer Westeros and take all the different castles. Oh man, it'd be so awesome. I'm totally getting googly eyes over here thinking about it. But yeah, if you're listening, CD Projekt Red, release your stupid game that you've delayed like 9 times, and then get on this because you'll make a ton of money.
So this is becoming a theme in our episodes where I make pleas to people who will never hear them, and it kind of makes me sad.
Right.
But you never know. You never know.
You never know.
So I'm just gonna throw it out there. So that's not a cop out answer. That's a great answer. Nick or Chad, did you have any others, or was that
Nope. That's
is that
it.
your own? Okay. So Nick, what did you come up with?
Okay. So just to piggyback a little bit what Chad was saying, I think if either of you play the Third Age Lord of the Rings game,
Third Age.
it was on the PlayStation 2. It was basically like Final Fantasy, but Lord of the Rings.
I'm gonna
Interesting.
do some
No,
googling real
I-
quick.
Yeah, I don't
Regardless.
think I've actually ever even heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, amazing game. It might still hold up now, but they did this the way they did it was obviously you are a hero and you build up your team as you kind of go through this very channeled story, right? And you upgrade your armor, all that kind of stuff, and then it's all like kind of turn-based action fighting like that. What they did though was your group, your little fellowship, went through the movies, so there was points where you were largely deviating from the main story, but you would crisscross the main story. So like you just missed like the Battle of the Balrog, or like the skeleton when they knock it down in the Mines of Moria, it falls. You're at the bottom of that well and the skeleton falls. So they weave it into the movies like that. So I think that's what they could do with kind of like that Game of Thrones Witcher thing too. Weave it into the books, the main character stories.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be for
after
sure.
looking up this game, I did play it on Game Boy Advance.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
What's the name of it?
Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
Yeah. That might have even been PlayStation 1. No, it's PlayStation 2. Yep.
Yeah,
GameCube,
PlayStation
Game Boy
2.
Advance, and Xbox. Anyway, good game. But yeah, something like that would be really cool. Because, like, imagine being at the Red Wedding, your character, or, stuff like that, where you're basically, they're retelling the books, but has your own story. I just like it when they weave
Right.
in the main story like that.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be really cool. And this game was turn-based, right? Looks
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, the combat
Okay.
was.
Yeah, I mean, that's a method of gaming that doesn't really get its due process anymore. It's not very popular anymore, turn-based games, but
Yeah, unfortunately,
miss
I
them.
love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like Nick's bread and butter.
I like to
Have
think.
you ever played? Have you ever played the Persona games, Nick?
No.
Okay.
No, but we worked with a guy who was like
Oh yeah.
way into them.
I gotta be honest, man. That I'm like, I don't know if I'm way into them, but I'm pretty into them. And
Nah,
and
I
it
don't
might
think
just be
anyone
because
could get
it's-
on this guy's level.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, probably not. They're great. They're
Be
great
warned.
games, man. I don't know. There's there are time pits. I mean, I think I sunk like 120 hours into Persona 4 Golden on the Vita.
Oh,
It's
dang.
just, I don't know. Loved it.
All right, Nick. So what's your idea?
Yeah, so I actually came up with two, but I scratched the first one for now two reasons. First reason was it was weak and I didn't really have it really thought out. But Chad did a much better presentation of it. I was thinking like a Game of Thrones MMO, but I was going to go for my better idea for for my actual pick.
Okay.
It would be an open world action RPG with like 4-person co-op, maybe like Left 4 Dead kind of style, but the boys.
Ah, okay. That would be
Oh,
really
man.
cool.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
You know, and you know, maybe I wanted to say like Grand Theft Auto, but maybe steering away from that kind of level, and I'm thinking more like maybe how Spider-Man's set up, but with that like also 4-person co-op where you got your boys and you're running around
So
doing
do
like
you-
that
normal
would be
stuff, but then
awesome.
also
Yeah.
encountering like baddies, and you got to do even weird. I mean, they could do a lot there.
So do you play as
Yeah.
the boys?
Yeah, you would be the boys.
Ah, interesting.
Or
That's-
whatever your
that's
your
cool.
crew was, you guys could make your characters, or you could
Uh,
be the boys.
Are you a fan of that show, Chad?
Yes, I am. But sadly, I have not watched the second season yet, but I
Oh,
absolutely
dude,
love the
it's
first season.
so good.
I just
But I'm
finished
like,
the
I'm
first,
so
so
behind on shows now that I'll get to it eventually. But
Yeah. Join the club.
yeah, right.
you're in
Yeah,
the
that would
club
be-
right here.
Yeah,
That would be
actually, you
great,
have joined
especially,
it.
especially if it was set up like the Spider-Man games, because that Nick? Did you play the Spider-Man game on PS4?
No, the PlayStation 2 is the one that I played way too
Oh,
much
okay.
of.
Yeah,
But I feel like that's the like version 1 of what those are. I just imagine those are that, but PlayStation 4.
right. Yeah, these ones are like. I get in a lot of arguments with people about the Arkham trilogy. I think that this surpasses the Arkham trilogy in every fashion.
Nice.
I love the Arkham
Take that,
trilogy,
Mike.
but- Yeah.
No,
yeah, I
I-
forgot Mike's a big.
Oh, no. I loved the Arkham trilogy. But I feel like if I would have played the new Spider-Man game, I would probably feel the same as Chad.
Yeah, I mean it's on a whole new level, and the Miles Morales game is equally as good. It's much shorter, but it's a great intro to the PS5. Like the graphics they're putting out on those two games on the PS5 at launch, I cannot wait for 2 years down the road to see what these games look like, because these are easily the best running and best looking launch games that I've ever seen. So
Nice. Yeah, I Spider-Man is definitely on the list of games where I'm incredibly sad that I didn't play.
yeah. You'll get to the point where you'll just break down. You'll buy a PS5, and you'll be just like me on the PS3. You'll have this
Yeah.
backlog of amazing games to go through.
Yeah, I feel like Riot would have to go out of business or something. But hey, stranger things have happened. So, that might give me an idea. Anyways, so yeah, I like the boys idea. That
Yes,
seems
great idea.
sounds like it would be really fun, and especially if it keeps in the same tone as the show, would be hilarious.
Yeah, because especially like the first, like Translucent, like his end, like setting that up in a game
Yeah.
would be sweet, because you're not fighting him. Like, you have to catch him, and then you have
Right.
to do, you got to figure out weird scenarios to deal with these problems.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
would
they're-
definitely be cool.
that's what makes that show so great, is because like, oh well, it's one of the many things, but just the fact that like these regular people have to figure out how to like corral superheroes
Yeah.
who are absolute douchebags and like don't care if they kill you. Like, oh jeez. Yeah, good idea. So kind of what I was thinking was, it's a little bit, different from both of your ideas, but have either of you guys played a game called Outlast on
Yes.
PlayStation?
I feel like I see that on Steam. Maybe I'm thinking of something
Yeah,
else.
it's on Steam too. It's like the night vision looking game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you play as like I believe like a journalist going to a house. It's been a while, so I could be totally butchering this, and I probably should have looked it up so I actually knew what I was talking about. But you go into a house and you have a video camera, really is the only thing you have. And like a whole bunch of really crazy, scary, creepy stuff is happening, and the only thing you can do is like hide or like run, and like you just have the video camera to allow you to see using the night vision, like Chad was saying, when it's really dark in a certain place. Otherwise you're just kind of like walking around, like finding clues, trying to figure out what's going on. It's incredibly scary, and yeah, so imagine that game. Excuse me. And then remember what I was telling you about a couple episodes ago, Nick, that Silent Hills like demo teaser called PT that was on
PT,
the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
So also imagine that gameplay where, you're just kind of like trying to piece clues and things together to understand what's going on in the game. There's not really combat. You're just kind of like walking around, finding things, trying to figure out what's going on while getting scared like every 5 seconds. So couple those two games gameplay wise and like general feel and tone, and then turn the Haunting of Hill House and the Haunting of Bly Manor into a game in those styles where you're like, maybe you're one of the members of the family, or you're a journalist or something that gets like told about the happenings of Hill House or Bly Manor, and you go there to investigate what's going on or like figure out what's going on. So you're just like in Bly Manor or in Hill House, like equipped with nothing, and you're just trying to like piece clues together and figure things out, all the while being like absolutely terrified by like crazy scary things in the game.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty good idea. I'm not gonna lie. I dig that idea for sure.
I feel like those two shows are just littered with so much things that you could like explore, right? And like both properties in the show are huge, so like it wouldn't even have to be completely contained in the house on either show or whatever.
Yeah, that's perfect. You'd almost have it's very similar to Resident Evil 7, where it's like all in the same area / house / I'm sure you guys haven't played that, but
I have not.
That's too high a number.
Yeah.
For a sequel.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's totally different than the other ones, and I liked it, but it's it's a game that I flew through because I just wanted it to be over because it was like kind of horrifying. So I think it's like maybe one of the only games I've ever beat in like a single day. Because I was just like, it's not because I loved it so much that I just couldn't put it down. I just wanted to get it over with and be done with it. I don't want to come back to this. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a great game. It's just horrifying. I don't know. It's something just doesn't sit right with me. But if you got that kind of gameplay, and then you're going through like Bly Manor specifically and all the grounds and everything, oh man, it'd be so cool. And that plague doctor like creeping up on you.
Yeah.
You turn around and he's just like chilling in the corner. That thing is,
or like
you
keep seeing like bent neck lady like just randomly,
right,
and you're like
yeah.
But in order for a game like that to really pull off those scares and really make it unsettling, like you really gotta, like, I'm not a huge fan of jump scares. Like, I think they're just kind of cheap. You know?
Right.
But if you can do something like, I know Dead Space has its fair share of jump scares, but there's also just a lot of like things that the first Dead Space does, like just sounds, and like you go down a corridor in the ship and you like look down one hallway and it's just like a guy standing there banging his head on the ship wall, and he like does nothing but do that, and you're like, why is he doing that? And he just doesn't stop doing that until he dies, and you're like, what the that's really weird. But like things like that, I think there's so much material in Hill House and Bly Manor that you can do scares like that are more on the psychological level and less on the you turn around a corner and something pops up on the screen type deal.
Oh man. The psychological aspect of it is it carries much more weight behind it, you know what I mean? And it kind of sticks with you longer too. Like the jump scares are like a second and then it's over, and then you're right back to feeling the same way. But it's the psychological stuff that, and especially in a game, building that into a game where you're actually like an active participant, like we talked about earlier, that'd be really good. That's a good answer. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it's the psychological stuff that that makes the jump scares more valuable in all the other more basic tropes. Because if they can get you into that mindset, they'll get you at every turn with whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. If you can find a way to incorporate the jump scares with the psychological horror stuff, that's where you get perfection. Because the thing that makes the psychological horror aspect so effective is like if it's done well, you're always like on the edge of your seat. One thing that I actually really like is when they never deliver on the actual scare, so you're just always on the edge of your seat and you never have the release of like, oh, thank God I finally got scared, like I can like relax for a little bit. But like I kind of like it when they never give you that satisfaction and you're just like, even after the movie or game or whatever, you're like, you put it down and you're just like, I never got scared. Like,
yeah.
When's it gonna come?
Yeah, right. I think that's kind of like how I felt with the Resident Evil 7 game. Is it has its jump scares, but it's majority psychological, and there's not that many jump scares, and you're just like on the edge of your seat the whole time. That's why I absolutely couldn't stand playing it. Like I just want this to be over.
Yeah, and then there's something also along the lines of gameplay like Outlast or PT where like there is no combat, so like you just feel helpless. That just piles on the horror and like the terrifying feeling of the game, because you're like, if something does come, like I can't do anything. What am I gonna do? Like record it on my camera? Oh, like
just run.
Yeah, like you got to go like hide under a bed and hope it doesn't like. There's that anticipation of, is it gonna look under the bed? Am I gonna die? Like, but yeah, I think that would be kind of a cool thing to do.
That would be really cool. The game that kind of did that really well was the Alien Isolation game.
Yeah,
it came out on PS4 and Xbox One, but there's there's a very little combat in that game, so it's mostly you running and hiding. And well, I don't know if you guys listen to our favorite haunted or favorite scary movies episode. Alien's like up there for me.
Yeah.
And that
Yep.
creature absolutely horrifies me. So that was like the perfect combo, but that's how they did it in the game, where you just didn't have any really way to fight back. So you're just running from this horrifying, dripping wet monster the whole time.
Yeah. Isolation has been in my Steam wish list for about 4 years. Someday I will buy it and play it because I've really wanted to play it.
It's good.
But
It's
yeah,
good.
so-
Yeah, I mean, it's vastly superior to any Alien game that's ever been. So
Nice. Yeah, so that wraps up our ideas. But like I said earlier, we had 2 people comment on our Facebook post with their ideas, and the first one is by a fellow named Mark Menzimer. Did I say that right, Nick?
Yeah, Mesmer.
Menzimer?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Sorry for butchering your last name. But his idea was a game based off of the show Fringe. And he said to make Fringe as a Telltale / Sherlock Holmes type of game, so you can fully flesh out the world and the story, but also make the player feel involved in the plot. Now, personally, I've never really watched Fringe that much. I think I might have seen an episode or 2. But he described it as CSI meets like sci-fi. I remember
Fringe is
playing
good. You guys should watch Fringe if you haven't seen it. It's definitely a good show. That's a cool idea though, for sure.
I remember
think
playing through the first season of the Walking Dead Telltale games, like you mentioned, a little bit ago, Chad. And that is a really, really cool way to tell a story through a game, I feel like. But without having actually seen Fringe very well, I don't know if I can say personally that would translate well as a Telltale game. But what do you think?
I think it would translate really well, actually. I think that the Telltale games are good at storytelling, and they're not necessarily good at their game. Like, some of their gameplay mechanics I just don't really like. Like, The Walking Dead was good, but I played, and I'm like a diehard, like we talked about earlier, I'm a diehard Game of Thrones guy. I could not get into the Game of Thrones Telltale game for whatever reason. But I think they mesh pretty good. Fringe is good. It's definitely worth going back and catching up on it if you guys haven't watched it. When I started working at the place I'm working at now, a guy was watching it all the time, and I kind of picked up on it from there and finished it. I think it's a great show.
I'm mostly interested because Lance Reddick is in it. He's in The Wire and like Oz and a bunch of stuff like that.
Is Fringe still like going, or has the series ended?
No, I think it
20
ended in like 2012 or 2013 maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
2008 to 2013.
Okay. Have either of you guys played the Sherlock Holmes games? I have not, but I've
No.
I have
heard
not.
of
They're on
them.
my list. I really, really want to play some of them, but I've got such
feel like
a
I
long
need-
list of games, man, that I don't know that I'll ever get to them.
Right.
I feel like I need to play that style of game because I don't think I have played one of those before. If I have, it's been far too long. And
Yeah,
it would have
I
been
mean-
like PC in the 2000s.
Yeah. You really have to be invested in the story, because I mean it's literally like you walk to a place and then you push one button and it gives you like 4 or 5 options to progress the story, and like
I might like that.
yeah. I mean, if you're looking for
It's almost
a good way to
they're
tell
almost visual novels.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
You're
Yep.
just kind of making the choices and going.
Choose your own ending visual novel.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll speed run it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Mark, for your idea. That was really cool. And then our second idea was by our good friend Jordan Hoffey, who was our guest on our Hill House episode, actually. His idea was a game where you are playing the role of Like he didn't really specify a movie or a show, but I kind of get where he's coming from. Basically, just think your typical superhero type show or movie, but you play as the criminals or the supervillain or villain or whatever, pulling like heists or whatever. You're doing your general criminal activities, and then the hero like Batman or insert other vigilante or superhero, they come and they try to like stop you. So my first thought when he said this was, have you guys ever played the game or heard of the game called Evolve?
Yes.
Yes.
I actually have that.
So if you haven't, you both said yes, but if anyone listening hasn't played the game Evolve, basically it's a 5-person shooter game. 4 people play as like a crew of hunters, and the 5th person plays as the monster that the other 4 players are trying to hunt down and kill. So my first thought was like, oh, this kind of sounds like an Evolve type game where you have like a crew of the criminals, and then one person plays as the hero or whatever to come and like save the day or whatever. But then he quickly texted me back and he's like, no, think like the hero is controlled by AI. So think of the game like Fear, if you've ever heard of or played that.
Oh, yeah.
Or like Chad mentioned earlier, Alien Isolation, where the hero is like the alien in that game, and you're trying to, pull off your heist or whatever while Superman's flying around there trying to stop you.
It's a cool idea. I'm not gonna lie. It would be a nice twist on a superhero game for sure, because nothing's ever been done like that, and it's cool to see that other side. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me. I think he's kind of hinting at it not being a multiplayer game. Is that what is he saying by?
I didn't know, and I didn't text him to clarify, but it's
because
I really get, because like Fear, wasn't that a multiplayer game, or am I misremembering?
I don't remember Fear. I mean, maybe Fear had a multiplayer section, but I remember Fear being a single player horror game. But if I'm thinking,
I'm not really sure what he was thinking between single player or multiplayer, but I think it could work in either way.
Yeah, because the first thing, when you said the first thing that popped into your mind was Evolve, the first thing that popped into my mind was, and I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but one of the Splinter Cell games had multiplayer where one person was Sam Fisher and then the other ones were like the bad guys, I guess you would say. That's what popped into my head. But I think it's a cool take on a superhero game, and you might actually, not 100% sure, and this is just me totally guessing, but you might get maybe something like that from the Rocksteady Suicide Squad game.
Oh, yes. That is true. I have seen the little trailer for that game.
Right, so I think that I think they announced that in that universe, Batman's dead, which he... did you play Arkham Knight?
I started to, but that was literally like right after Peyton was born. So
right. So I don't know. You might get that out of that, but that's a cool idea. I like that. It's a cool twist on a superhero game to be the bad guys, because it's never like that.
Exactly, and it kind of almost plays into Nick's idea with the boys a little bit, but.
Oh yeah. True.
Yeah. Thanks, Jordan. That was a really interesting idea, and it kind of, bringing up the Batman games and the new Suicide Squad game and the stuff that was talked about at the DC fandom event or whatever earlier in the summer. The new Arkham game. Oh, what is it called? What's it called, Chad?
Gotham Knights.
Yes, dude.
It looks good. Okay.
I've been wanting. No, don't do this. Don't do it. 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 Don't do it.
I just wanted it to be another Batman Arkham game, you know? That's just me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But it does look
I
cool. It does look cool.
I've been wanting ever since Arkham Asylum was the first game, correct? And then Arkham City was the second one. And then
Correct.
Arkham Knight was the third one.
Yeah, and there was actually Arkham
One
Origins
in between.
in between.
Yeah, yeah. So right around when Arkham City was out and I was blowing through that game, I just remember vividly being like, man, this would be so cool to just be like gliding through, Gotham, like grapple gunning off of all of the gargoyle statues and looking down and seeing my buddy, like Robin, just running along the street or whatever
Like
Robin does.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this would be so cool. And then, like, I saw the trailer for Gotham. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is what I've wanted for so long. And I don't have a console anymore. I hope this comes to PC.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Just buy a PS5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely did. You should, because you got some catching up to do. You need the Last of Us 2. You need Uncharted 4. It's funny that, because I think, did we talk about this before, or did you put something on like Facebook talking about it? Because I knew that you like wanted that game, like a multiplayer Arkham game.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that we maybe talked about it on the last episode I was on with you guys, maybe briefly or something. But it's funny that they did announce it. I'm a little worried about it just because it is the people that made Arkham Origins, and I didn't like Arkham Origins.
Yeah, that definitely is the dud of the Arkham games for sure.
For sure, yeah. But I think them breaking away from the Arkham games as far as trying to follow up Arkham City, I mean, that had to be hard as is, because Arkham City's fantastic. So I think it's a cool idea, and I hope it's good, because it's, one of my favorite villains in the DC universe is Red Hood, and he's one of the characters you can play as. So
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I just got kind of a little amped up because there was like, they teased the Court of Owls stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a Batman game, and it's gonna be about the Court of Owls. And then like the beginning of the trailer, he's like,
if you're
Batman's
seeing
there,
this,
and he's like, I'm dead.
that means I'm dead.
If you're seeing this, I'm dead. I'm like, no.
Yeah, the trailer, oh dude, it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. It's so good. But I've learned the hard way that you can't always, fall in love with a game because of the trailer.
Right, same with a movie. Sometimes the best scenes from a movie are just in the trailer.
Yeah, or like Justice League, not even in the movie at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, with movies, I really have like cut watching trailers for movies or shows like completely out of my life, because they just ruin the experience, in my opinion.
Really? Yeah. I'm for the most part I'm like that, but like the Star Wars movies, I like ate those trailers up, especially the sequel trilogy, and then any video game. I mean,
I say that about movies, but I watch every single Marvel trailer. That was hard to say. But I also don't really care about Marvel too much. Like, I enjoy all of them and have fun watching them, but I'm like more of a DC guy, so like I'm not like super invested in the story or whatnot.
Yeah, I was definitely more of a Batman guy specifically until the Spider-Man game came out, and that kind of won my heart as far as superheroes go, and that's kind of what got me into the MCU. But I think the MCU is okay. It's good. It's better than majority of the superhero movies we get, but
yeah,
like I
would
said
say
earlier,
Tom Holland is so good as Spider-Man, and really makes me love Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and when I was a kid, Mysterio was always my favorite villain, and I think they nailed him in Far From Home. Absolutely nailed him. Those like illusion scenes are just fantastic.
And
but
Jake
I am a little I mean, you can't
actor.
beat him.
He's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I think I completely forgot that came out and he was in it. I thought Because I want to see that now that I remember Jake Gyllenhaal's in it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to watch it. It's one of the best Marvel movies. For
I haven't seen any Spider-Man movie since like Venom, and
Ugh.
like the other Venom, not the Tom
like the
Hardy
Tom
one.
Hardy.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, Spider-Man
Talking
3.
about
Ah,
Spider-Man
no! You need to
Oh,
watch the new
man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta watch
Spider-Man.
that. But hey,
Yeah.
hey, you said you didn't play the Spider-Man PS4 game?
No.
Yeah, it's perfect time to hop on that game and get on those movies. That's how I love doing things, man. And I was the same as you. I hadn't seen anything past the Raimi trilogy. And
No, Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man.
Tom Holland's
It made me really love Spider-Man.
I
Yeah.
did see the animated one. That was really good.
oh man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse?
That's
Yeah.
like a whole nother level of
Yeah.
animated comic book movies, man.
I watched it on a whim, and I was just like, and it was like late at night, and I was just like, what am I watching? Like, what did I get into?
Yeah.
Dude, those are the best experiences in my like viewing experience. Like that's like kind of how we talked about last week with Scott Pilgrim. Like that's why I've cut out trailers and stuff. Is like my viewing experience of Scott Pilgrim specifically was so crazy because I had no idea what that movie was gonna be, and I was just like blown out of the water because it was off the wall. And so like I'm like I need more of this movie viewing experience in my life where like I just I see that the actors and or actresses, the director or producer or writer, and I'm like yeah, I'll go see that. But like once we get to that point, like I try not to look at anything, trailer wise, story wise, like news wise, because I don't want anything to be spoiled.
I would have loved to accidentally gone and seen Into the Spider-Verse in theaters. That would have been cool.
Yeah, it was awesome in theaters, man. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I think it's definitely better in theaters.
Oh yeah, just the visuals are so awesome in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Rip
Yeah,
the
when
movies.
I got that, when the Spider-Man game came out on the PS4, I had already done the Arkham Knight thing and watched all the Batman animated movies, and they're really good. I love the Batman animated movies.
Mhm.
So when Spider-Man came out, I was like, I can't wait to dive into all these animated movies that I haven't seen. I'm like super excited. Go to
Yeah.
Google and look up Spider-Man animated movies. Nothing. Literally nothing. There's a movie coming out in a month called Into the Spider-Verse. That's it. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there's nothing. Like, Batman has like 15 fantastic animated movies.
They
And
made up for
Spider-Man has
lost
nothing.
time.
Yeah, they definitely did, because I think that is like the pinnacle of what a comic book animated movie should be.
Yeah, that's really. And speaking of Tom Holland, tying this in with our previous conversation,
I was just gonna bring it up, but go ahead.
he's young Nathan Drake in the Uncharted movie. So I have like, even though we kind of railed on video game movies, I'm actually pretty excited about the Uncharted movie.
I think it's that game is the right premise and style for an easy segue into a movie, because it is a movie.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
I think they could even, I mean, you could get away with making a movie, an Uncharted movie, and doing a very mild dose of what they did with Doom, where they make the movie into like some sort of action sequence where you go first person shooter.
Yeah.
But do that with the Uncharted movie, where like the airplane scene or the train scene, like have some sort of capture that video game like camera angle. I don't know, but
yeah,
make it feel like that.
I think we had discussed this a very little bit briefly, maybe on an episode, maybe just in conversation, but there's a really great like 15-minute long like fanfic Uncharted movie
Yes.
on
It
YouTube
is.
floating around with
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion, and
Oh,
they do
dude,
exactly what you're talking about,
Yep.
Nick, where
Right.
they're-
Say.
yeah, they have these really cool scenes where it like snaps right over his shoulder when he's like, shooting at the bad guys or whatever. He like dives behind something for cover.
And that's all it needs.
Yeah.
Yep. Had this been, I wasn't sold on Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I didn't see the vision, but after seeing the set photo where they released of him dressed up like Nathan Drake, I was like, oh man. I mean,
Is it young
I
Nathan
love Tom
Drake?
Holland. Yeah, he's.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna be a young
Nathan
Nathan Drake. Yeah, and then Mark Wahlberg is a young Sully.
What?
And it's funny because I think originally
Mark
Wahlberg
Nathan
was
Drake.
set to play Nathan Drake, and it's just been
Right.
so long since they picked this movie up to do that now he's playing Sully, which I think is fantastic. But
That's
Yeah.
I
funny.
definitely don't see the
Um,
vision for. I think he could probably do a good Sully, but Nathan Fillion, man, he absolutely nails Nathan Drake. If this was 10 years ago and he was younger,
Right.
he
Too much
would've
time
made-
passed.
Yeah, he would have made a perfect Nathan Drake. I mean, even like when he's like getting beat up in the chair in that movie, just the
Yeah.
back of his head looks like Nathan Drake. You know what I mean? Like, oh my goodness, this is like wild how similar he looks to him. And he's got those, that like quippy attitude, and it's just I love that 15-minute movie.
This also you sorry, excuse me. This is also a case where you could make the argument that even giving Nolan North a shot at playing a live action Nathan Drake could be totally justifiable. And if you don't know,
Absolutely.
Nolan North is
He's-
the guy who voices Nathan Drake and about a million other video game characters across many, many, many video games. But like, I would even love to see him as Nathan Drake, just because. Like,
Yeah, but I agree with that for sure, because he kind of looks like him too, also.
yeah,
And I think it's because the face model, at least probably from 3
right,
to
the
4,
mocap
was
and stuff.
yeah, the motion cap was off of him. But that's, to me, it's the same problem that you get with Nathan Fillion. And I think he's like
Yeah.
in his 50, he's like
Yeah.
50 now.
Yep, it's too old.
So for like
Sad. Maybe if they do a movie where we have an old Nathan Drake, we could just have Fillion and Nolan North just like fight to the death at who gets to play him.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I get what they're doing with Tom Holland. They want to probably build a franchise, and they want him to grow into being Nathan Drake, and I think he's got the potential to maybe do that. But in my eyes, nobody will ever beat Nathan Fillion live action. Maybe Holland. Will
Yeah, I'm watching it
prove
right
wrong,
now. It's so
but
good.
It's so good.
We'll,
man.
we'll
It's so
definitely include that the link to that Uncharted fanfic into our episode description for your viewing pleasure, because it's great if you have like 15 or 20 minutes. I forget exactly how long it is, but
Yeah, I
it's
think it's like
definitely
15,
worth the
yeah.
time.
Top comment by Heavenly Controller. I like how fan film live action is always better than Hollywood's out of touch with the fan base attempts.
Dude,
Yeah.
so true.
It is, man.
There is excuse me, man, I keep choking. I wish my cup wasn't empty. It's such a long hike to go upstairs and refill my water. But there is I cannot remember the name of it, so I excuse my typing you're about to hear. But there's an amazing fan film like trailer thing for a dark Pokemon universe story.
Whoa.
Oh,
and-
really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it took this company. Okay, so it's 2 minutes long. It's just kind of like a little teaser trailer, but I don't know if it's actually going to turn into anything. But it was made by a group called No One. We'll definitely have this link in our episode description too. But it's animated. The graphics are phenomenal, and you can't do it now because we're in the middle of recording, but you definitely should watch this. It's, if you're a fan of Pokemon at all in the least bit, this is so cool. And I hope that somebody somewhere gives this studio all the money in the world to create an animated series or a real gritty movie series or something based off of their vision from this 2 minute teaser thing. 'Cause
I mean,
it's so good.
you'd never know because that happened with Mortal Kombat too. I don't know if you guys ever saw. I can't remember the name of it. What it came out as. I think it's Mortal Kombat Legacy, the live action like web series.
No,
There
I
is
don't think I've
there
watched
was
that, but I've heard of it.
yeah, there was like a. It was probably longer than 2 minutes. It was like a live action kind of pitch for a new Mortal Kombat movie. And the first one is like, oh my goodness, like if they did this for a movie, this would be awesome. And then it got picked up for a live action web series, and it's good. It's not as perfect as the trailer or the pitch was originally, but if you guys ever watched the Mortal Kombat movies, or I mean played the Mortal Kombat games, then you should definitely check that trailer out because it's the same thing. I mean, not that you have to be more dark and gritty with Mortal Kombat, but it's like a more realistic look at a Mortal Kombat movie. It's really good.
What did you say it was called? Legacy?
So yeah, let me look up real quick. I think the web series that came out from that pitch trailer was Mortal Kombat Legacy, but the trailer itself was not, or the pitch in quotes was not.
Is it maybe called Rebirth?
Rebirth. That's it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I found
that's
it here.
that's the short pitch is Rebirth. It's 8 minutes long, and then that spawned a web series called Mortal Kombat Legacy. And then they did a second season, and it looks like there's actually a third season in development right now. Or it might be out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think the fan versions are cool because unlike Hollywood, they tend to kind of
focus on the details.
Homage. Well, that and
Right.
like they pay homage to the source material, like even if they don't follow it exactly, but like they're fans of it, obviously. So there are aspects of the source material that they love because they're fans, you know. So they try to incorporate as much as possible from the original source material, and I mean, the Uncharted movie, like you were saying, Nick, like you could just literally repeat the story from the game. Like it's already movie material.
It's there.
So like
Right.
So that's one thing where I'm kind of like, you know, excited but like with bated breath, right? Because movie adaptations of video games usually turn sour because they veer so far off the path of the source material, and it's just like it's literally all there for you, like nice and pretty in this package. Like just do that.
Hey, shout out to the one that did it right. Hopefully we get another one someday.
Warcraft.
That's right.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, they go all in on exact source material.
Yeah.
And they're not shy about it. And I just
they
feel
don't
like
try to pander to people who didn't really play the games.
yeah, and I don't know why they always attempt to do that. Be like, oh, let's try to capture this new audience demographic to get into this. Like, no, you have an entire demographic that bought the game who are about to buy the movie.
Right.
That
literally
demographic's already
repeat.
there. You don't need a bigger demographic, especially for something like World of Warcraft that's got a, you know, the following has waned in recent years and it goes up and down all the time, but it's got a massive following, so you don't need to.
If a game is big enough,
audience.
yeah, if the game's big enough to make a movie off of it, you have enough people to make money off of the movie.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. Or why else are you making the movie? Exactly, if there wasn't interest. But this kind of, I know we're kind of running a little long, but this kind of brings up another cool topic. Examples like Blizzard, and even, I know neither of you guys play League of Legends, but Riot actually has quite a deep universe with some pretty incredible lore around their characters in League of Legends. I mean, the game's like a decade old, and there's like 100 and I think 130 or 140 playable characters in the game. So like, there's tons of characters. They fleshed out like the actual world, and there's like different regions and like races and like political beliefs and religious beliefs, and like there's so much in the actual game that they could actually benefit, I think, from making an MMO version of League of Legends, just because there's so much story there. But a company like Blizzard with World of Warcraft or Diablo or even StarCraft, a company like Riot with League of Legends, these games that have been around for so long, like, I would love so much for Blizzard to pump out an animated series on Netflix, right? If you just go and watch any of their cinematic trailers since
yeah, man.
Wrath of the Lich King up to like today with Shadowland, is it Shadowlands?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch any of those cinematic trailers and, try not to drool all over your desk. Like,
right.
They're
that
beautiful.
Cataclysm trailer was awesome, man. I yeah, you're right. Those CG trailers are absolutely top notch, especially for the time that most of them came out too.
Yeah, I go back and watch the Wrath of the Lich King one very frequently.
That one's
like that's
fantastic.
One of my favorite cinematic trailers ever. But like they look so good, and Blizzard, I mean, for being a small indie company, like Blizzard and Riot, I know there's no way that they could finance any type of animated series, on their small indie company budgets, but
yeah,
like you have the people in-house, right? They create these cinematic trailers. Like, just make a show. Like, you have all the source material. You're the one that made it. Like, you obviously write the scripts for these trailers. You animate these trailers. You like produce everything yourselves at your studios for these trailers. Like, just give people the time and like ability to flesh those out into like 20-minute, 30-minute episodes, like, or an actual animated movie or something. I don't know. There's so much material there that like, that'd be so fun.
If only they had like a catalog of pre-existing stories / quests that they could reference. I don't know. Really stretching.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine making like, I don't know. So like a season could be an expansion, and it actually follows the main story arc. Speaking of World of Warcraft, and then think of all the stupid filler episodes you could have with all the side quests that there are in that game.
Right.
Well, I mean, you could even do like an entire series on an expansion.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Not even like a
sure.
season.
Yeah.
There's so much material in a World of Warcraft expansion, from like all the different races and zones, and like
you could probably do stuff. You're right. So like Burning Crusade, you could probably do a season on every zone because of the story lines within there.
Yeah, there's just so much material there, and I mean, as a fan of World of Warcraft and a game like League of Legends, like, League of Legends is releasing an animated series here pretty soon. It was part of their like their 10-year celebration last year. They like announced they released Valorant, which was a first-person shooter similar to Overwatch. They're releasing a fighting game. They have a card game similar to Hearthstone. I think they might even be making an action RPG type game that looks maybe similar to a Diablo type game. So basically, Riot has seen everything that Blizzard has done, and apparently got like mad at Blizzard. This is all speculation, by the way, in my mind. That like Riot saw Blizzard's attempt at trying to break into the MOBA game space with Heroes of the Storm, and they got like pissed, and they're like, "Oh, so you're gonna try to improve MOBAs, huh?" And so like it looks like they took all of Blizzard's other game ideas and they're like, we're just going to make better versions of like Overwatch with Valorant. We're going to
Yeah.
make a better version of Hearthstone with Legends of Runeterra. And the other game that they kind of like showed a clip of, but they haven't really released many details about, it looks like a top-down co-op style, like Diablo style game. So like I don't know if that's what it's actually going to turn out to be, or if it's going to be similar to an MMO or something, but it's just kind of like funny to me. It's like, oh, I bet we can make all of these other games better than you, Blizzard, because
Yeah,
that's
right.
kind of what it seems like they're doing.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if how many past Blizzard employees work at what's that, Riot?
Yeah, right. That's a
Because
good.
because there is
good
there is
question.
some sort of correlation there. But to touch on the animated section, I think that people are starting, especially Netflix is starting to see that video games kind of translate better into animated things, and you saw it with the animated Resident Evil movies are very, very good. The Castlevania anime on Netflix is absolutely stellar, and they're doing like a Cuphead animated show, which is a Xbox
really?
game, and I think they have like there was a rumor that they were doing a Netflix animated Resident Evil series, but I think somewhere it turned into a live action, because now I'm seeing like live action stuff. I don't know if it's the movie reboot or the Netflix thing that I'm seeing.
Yeah,
thought-
the new Resident Evil stuff is a little confusing.
Yeah,
Castlevania's on my watch list.
Oh, it's so good, man. It's so good. I mean, that's like the pinnacle of what a video game show can be for me, at least.
Do you guys have any like other than Blizzard stuff? Any other games that you think could translate well into a show or a movie that isn't already out there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, out there well. I'd like to see Assassin's Creed execute as a series
Yeah.
than a movie. Or even like that would be, I said this in another episode, that would be a good anthology series to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be, you're right. Yep.
And that fit right into our nice little nest, our love island of period pieces too.
Period piece anthologies.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're one of those
Have
two
you guys-
styles of shows, we're gonna love it.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, Assassin's Creed would be a good one. I think The Last of Us is being done, so I can't really say that. But that has got me very excited, The Last of Us HBO series, because it's being helmed by the people that did Chernobyl.
Yeah,
And
that
Chernobyl I
makes
thought
me
was
excited.
fantastic.
That sounds promising.
It's just yet another reason why I need to get HBO, because I'm like, living in the dark ages over here without HBO.
So much
Right.
for you to catch up on.
Yeah.
And now there's really, like, now that HBO Max is out, there's so much on there. It's like for me, it was worth the price before HBO Max came out. Now it's like well worth the price.
So what is the price, and what is the difference between all the different HBO services? Like, is there
So-
one now? Is it just
Yeah,
Max,
I think
or
there's
is there
one.
like Go and Max and whatever?
Yeah, so I think Go and Now were kind of the, like, I don't think they could figure out how to do a streaming service without having somebody pay for the actual HBO channel. So I think that's where the mix-up was. Originally, I think HBO Go was like, if you had the
Yep.
subscription on TV, then you used HBO Go. And then if you just wanted a streaming service, HBO Now was your streaming service. But now I think it's just all one package in HBO Max. And it's got all the HBO shows, and then it's got a ton of other stuff, ton of DC, all the Batman animated movies are on there. There's a ton on there. I mean, there's like, I don't know really what they have under their umbrella. Warner Brothers obviously is under their umbrella because all the Batman stuff is on there.
Right.
But they have like obscure stuff like Big Bang Theory, the show, and all kinds of sitcoms and all kinds of stuff on there. So well worth the price. And I think it's
What is
$14.99 a month.
Oh, that's not bad. Nice. Yeah, I definitely need to get on that bus just because of all of the past things that I haven't seen that I want to, but also, the Snyder Cut.
I would
Yeah,
I would say
kinda feel
it's
like-
worth pausing your Netflix at some time and just taking like an HBO Max stint for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, I think just The Sopranos and Game of Thrones alone is enough to push you over the edge if you haven't seen those shows, Mike.
Yeah. I have not seen either. And I have a podcast
Yeah, I feel
about
like
shows,
if you,
so
I feel like with
this
your,
might be our last episode after admitting that.
yeah. I think that after hearing how you got into Star Wars, I think the same thing would happen to you for Game of Thrones because, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all there, man. The world is there. There's a ton to dive into. It's super fleshed out. I love everything about Game of Thrones. It's up there with Star Wars for me.
Yeah, I can only do one at a time though, so
That's
I
true.
got my work
Yeah,
cut
finish
out
Star
ahead.
Wars first,
So-
and then I mean that's like a major red flag you have to get away
so by
from
the
your
time
life.
by the time I turn 40, I might be able to, take a crack at Game of Thrones or Sopranos or. I definitely didn't do myself any favors putting it off this long, but what are you gonna
No,
do?
you didn't. But
Yeah, you
could
should have
argue
caught
that
up
you
like
have.
5 years ago.
Yeah, but you could argue that it's sweet
Yeah.
now because now you just get to binge everything.
Yeah, and I gave him a decent time, like a decent order to watch things in
Right.
based on
Did you
kind of like
mix,
what he has seen.
Did you mix the Clone Wars in there?
Yeah, basically based on like what he had seen already, I kind of have him on like a really basically the machete order if you're familiar
Okay,
with
yeah.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, basically he's gonna watch Rebels, Empire, and then take a very big flashback to the prequels and Clone Wars before he gets to finish out that original trilogy.
Did you cut out Phantom Menace? Because I think the machete order cuts out Phantom Menace, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does technically, but I leave it in there
Yeah.
because the music score is the best probably
Right.
in all of them.
and it's got an amazing villain. I like.
Well, yeah, because now you have to include with how much Dave has put into that character.
Right. Yep. And how much that they've brought him back in Clone Wars and you know,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not
Ju-
gonna, I
yeah.
don't want to spoil too much, so keep my mouth shut. But I think you have to keep it in there. I think it's. I like the Phantom Menace. I might be one of the weird people that likes the. Phantom
no, I
Menace,
love that
but-
movie. I like it.
Yeah. Do you like the other prequels?
Yeah, you mean like Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. I mean, that's my favorite of the three, just because there's just so much in that, and it's just that turning point for everything. But yeah, no, I mean, I grew up on those ones more so, or at least
That seems to be the correlation between people that like the prequels and people that don't like the prequels. People that are older and grew up with the original trilogy hate the prequels and like despise them. But I'm
Yeah.
the same way. I grew up kind of with the prequels, so they're
Yeah, because I was born in '91. I was born in '91, so I watched the original trilogy as like a child a lot. But then those were the first movies I experienced brand new, and I was like a little bit older, so it all clicked to me. I didn't have any kind of predisposed angst against it, like maybe the original trilogy
right.
people do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I get a lot of weird looks when I say that I like the prequel trilogy, but
Well, Mike today was like, "Where's the new trilogy fit into that?" And I'm like, "I left it off."
really, so you saying you don't like the new trilogy?
I'll let him get through all of get caught all the way up, and then
Yeah.
he can watch that if he likes. I don't mind it. I also wouldn't mind if they just kind of called it a dream,
A wash.
and then
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that what happened there, and I'm not going to get into any spoilers whatsoever because I don't want to spoil anything for Mike, but I think what happened there was the mix-up in directors. I think if J.J. Abrams had
Yes.
done the whole thing, it would have been
Correct.
absolutely stellar because I love The Force Awakens, and
there's too much
they're-
company politics going on,
Yep.
and it
That's exactly
it messed
what
it up.
is. And it got to the point where, like, The Last of Us took a freaking left turn, and then JJ tried to wipe all that in the third one, and then it just kind of muddied the entire trilogy. I like it. I like, I still love them. They're still Star Wars movies to me, but it could've
Yeah,
been
I don't
much
have
better.
anything. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything against them. I take issue with Disney at that level.
Yep. Right.
Not the actors, not their acting, in their lines. I take issue with the company and how they managed that project.
The entire project, right? Yeah, I've always think to myself like what J.J. Abrams would have done with The Last Jedi and how different that entire trilogy could have played out if he just stuck with it and did all three movies. Because I think he's like we talked about earlier, he's a fan, so he kind of had that like going into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Ryan Johnson's a good director, but I don't think that was his niche. Like that's not
No,
a Ryan.
right.
I don't. That's not the kind of Ryan Johnson movie I want to see for what he's known
Right.
for. Like once I realized what he's known for, I'm like, that makes sense. Him doing a Star Wars movie does not.
Right, exactly. Yep.
I do love J.J. Abrams,
Good old JJ.
Yeah.
my boy. Bad Robot.
You guys ever get into the Cloverfield movies? That's a whole
They're
nother
one of my
episode. We won't
favorites.
unpack that. I
Yeah.
just want a yes or no.
Of course. They're
Okay.
some of my favorite movies. Even the weird
right.
paradox one.
I
Wasn't
kind
great, but I still
I mean,
watched
it's
it
weird.
and
It's
enjoyed
weird,
it.
but I still enjoyed it. Yeah, I loved every. I think I loved it so much because of the way that it came out.
Right.
I think that's like a hidden gem that the gaming community and movies should do, where they're like, here's this awesome trailer for this sweet game, Grand Theft Auto 6. And by the way, it's in the PlayStation Store right now. You can go play it. Like, that's just
Right,
like some
yeah.
stuff you don't need to build hype for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think didn't he do? I gotta look this up. Shoot, what is the name of it? Is this
Super
it?
8.
No. Yes, he did do that. I was thinking of. This has to be it. A movie called Overlord.
Yes,
But
he did
I
do
don't-
that.
Is that an
That
Abrams one?
originally
Yeah.
Was supposed to be a Cloverfield.
was supposed to be a
movie.
Cloverfield movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm being honest, from what I read about like Cloverfield Paradox, I don't think that was a Cloverfield movie. I think it was picked up and kind of sprinkled with some Cloverfield stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not originally, and I think Overlord was originally supposed to be that third movie, and they, for whatever reason, didn't sprinkle in the Cloverfield stuff. That's what I read online, at least.
Yeah. I enjoyed Overlord though. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, Super 8 was great. That was a fun movie. Cloverfield or 10 Cloverfield Lane. As time has passed, 10 Cloverfield Lane has creeped closer and closer to the original Cloverfield in my likeness of it.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think I've actually only seen it once. I need to go back and watch it. I actually just watched Cloverfield like literally 3 or 4 days ago. And I had
I
the
love
plan
how
of-
the HUD from Cloverfield is
Yeah.
what's his name from Deadpool, the bartender?
Yeah. I don't
Like-
remember his name in Deadpool.
that dude, I forget
Yeah.
the actor's name too, but and he's a comedian also. But dude, so funny.
Yeah, he is funny. He's just got that dry.
Yeah.
He's great in Cloverfield too, I think.
Dude, he really is. So he's like the best person to be in control of the camera. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
and his character in Deadpool, like, oh my gosh, he's so funny.
Yeah,
Him
he's
and
just
Ryan
got that
Reynolds
like
together
those
are great.
one-liners, man. Are he's got the best one-liners.
Yeah, for sure. Ah, boys, I think we did it. Unless you guys
Think we did.
have anything else to say, we kind of ran the gambit tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stems from I have a deep passion for video games, and I have a deep passion for talking about them. And on my podcast, I don't get to talk about them, so I kind of like maybe overtook this episode a little bit with my talking.
No,
I mean,
no,
I had
it
a
was
blast.
perfect. No, it was really fun.
I think
Yeah.
we unearthed like 5 or 10 more episode topics. I think in here.
Because guess what? That esports pin, it's still there. And we're
Still
not going
there,
to get
you just
back
gotta
to it
pull
it tonight. No, we're going to, that's an extra large pin, and it's going to stay until the next time you come back. And we can talk
It's a
about
thumbtack.
esports. Yeah, it's more
For
of like a nail. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on and chatting games with us. We love talking about games and haven't in quite a while since our episode where we talked about New World. And yeah, so tell
Yeah,
tell
man,
everyone where we can find you and what you're a part of and everything.
Yeah, so I am one of the hosts of That Strange, and you can go to thatstrange.net and find literally everything that we do and all of our links and all that stuff. And I'm super happy that I was on this episode, and I will be back literally anytime you ever ask me to because I had a blast.
All right. Well, hey, I'll hold you to it. We enjoyed chatting with you, and we really had fun. In the last episode, you and Alex were on in October when we talked about ARGs. It was a blast. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely look forward to having you and him and Ryan if he ever wants to come on. Yeah, you guys are good people and really fun to talk to. So thank you so much for joining us. And, yeah, make sure you check out That's Strange. Go to thatstrange.net. Find all of their stuff there. If you don't follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Showboys Podcast. You can check out our Linktree link in the episode description for links to all of our podcast platforms that our episodes are released on, as well as our social media pages. You got anything to say, Nick? Or are we cueing the music and getting out of here?
No, this is a rock solid episode. It was a lot of fun. And I always like it when we find more and more topics. It's just endless. But yeah, cue the music.
You there, Chad?
Maybe that's why he's been quiet. We did the mic test, and we're like, "You sound great," and then silence.
Chad, where'd you go?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.